Hello and welsium to the velvet past. Asterisk, asterisk, hush now. Listen closely to the wind, for it carries secrets older than stone. Whispers from a time when the world was vast and untamed, and the very ground beneath your feet could open to swallow legions. Whole. Imagine the deepest night, a canopy of stars so brilliant it seemed to hum with forgotten knowledge, and beneath it the chilling tale of an army that simply ceased to be, a story not of defeat in battle, but of utter, profound evaporation, as if the very air exhaled, and they were gone. Our tale begins in the searing heart of ancient Egypt, a land of colossal monuments and deeper mysteries, ruled for a time by the iron hand of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. It is the year 525 BC, the throne of the pharaohs, once sacred to native kings, now bowed before Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great, a conqueror whose ambition knew no bounds. He was a king steeped in the lore of his own power, convinced the divine will flow through his veins, making him untouchable, unstoppable. His gaze, however, turned from the fertile Nile to the desolate, shifting horizons of the western desert to the remote oasis of Siwa, home to the revered oracle of Ammon. This was no mere military target. This was a challenge to the very fabric of fate, a defiant march against prophecy itself. The oracle of Ammon was not just a shrine. It was a voice in the wilderness, consulted by pharaohs and conquerors alike, its pronouncements carrying the weight of the divine. Legend held that its prophecies were unerring, its knowledge boundless. To Cambyses, a king who believed in subjugating even the spiritual realm, this oracle represented a final, defiant whisper of independent power in a land he sought to utterly dominate. He would not merely conquer, he would silence. He would prove that even the gods bent to his will. So he raised his hand, and from the disciplined ranks of his vast empire, he ordered forth a formidable force, a legion, 50,000 strong, chosen for their unwavering loyalty and their renowned martial prowess. 50,000 souls, each a flicker of life, entrusted with an impossible mission. They were to march west from Thebes, now Luxor, into the boundless, indifferent embrace of the Sahara, cross its scorching heart, and reach the distant oasis where the sacred words of Ammon were spoken. Their purpose was not peace, but subjugation. Their objective, to seize or destroy the oracle, to erase its influence, and cement Cambyses' absolute authority. Imagine them, then, a river of humanity flowing into an ocean of sand. The glint of their bronze armor under the merciless sun, the rhythmic crunch of their sandals on the burning earth, the murmur of thousands of voices slowly fading as the desert swallowed their sounds. They carried provisions, water skins, and the silent weight of their king's unyielding command. Days bled into weeks. The soft dunes gave way to rocky plains, then to endless stretches of fine, wind-whipped sand that shimmered like liquid gold. Under the oppressive sky, the air grew thick with dust, coating their skin, rasping in their throats. Each sunrise promised only more of the same, an unbroken horizon, a relentless sun, and the chilling knowledge that every step took them further from the known world. The desert, however, is a living thing, ancient and unforgiving. It does not simply exist. It breathes, it shifts, it remembers. It tests those who dare to trespass, peeling back layers of resolve, revealing the raw, primal fear beneath. For an army accustomed to pitched battles against visible foes, this was a war against an unseen enemy. Thirst, exhaustion, and the profound, crushing solitude of nothingness. The supply lines, stretched taut like dying nerves, surely began to fray. Water became a dream, then a torment. The morale, once fueled by the king's decree, must have dwindled with each blistering day. Then the silence descended, abruptly. Completely no messenger returned. No survivor stumbled back, eyes wide with horror, to recount a tale of a valiant last stand or a desperate retreat. The vast mechanism of the Persian Empire, so efficient in its conquest, found itself staring into a void. The 50,000 simply vanished. Historians, chroniclers, and later, the curious minds of the modern age have scoured the remnants of ancient texts for clues. Herodotus, the Greek historian, writing decades later, recounts the tale, noting the Persian destruction of the oracle and then the dispatch of this very army, which, he claimed, was engulfed by a colossal sandstorm. He spoke of its sudden, terrifying appearance, a monstrous whirlwind of grit and fury, burying the entire legion beneath mountains of shifting sand, leaving no trace, no whisper, no sign of the grand expedition. It is a chillingly simple explanation, a dramatic act of nature's immense, indifferent power. But what if it was more? What if the desert itself, a vast, sentient entity, simply decided to absorb them? Imagine the wind, not as a random force, but as a deliberate breath, inhaling an entire army into its silent, sandy lungs. Perhaps the very land rebelled against their intrusion, against the hubris of a king who dared challenge the sacred. Was it a single, monumental sandstorm, a maelstrom of grit and wind that erased their very footprints, leaving an untouched expanse where an army once marched? Or was it a more subtle, creeping form of disappearance, where one by one, individuals succumbed to thirst and exhaustion, their bodies quickly claimed by the moving dunes, leaving no visible mass grave, no telltale signs of a collective demise? Archaeologists, driven by the enduring allure of this phantom legion, have journeyed into those same desolate wastes. They have probed the dunes, scanned the barren plains, searching for any shard of pottery, any corroded piece of armor, a solitary bone, a hint of human passage. Yet, time and again, the desert yields nothing but its ancient, unreadable face. No definitive mass grave has been unearthed, no scattered remains that scream of a sudden, catastrophic end. The lack of evidence is as profound and unsettling as the disappearance itself. It defies the very nature of an army, which leaves its indelible mark on the landscape through camps, debris, and fallen warriors. The fate of Cambyses' lost army remains a chilling testament to the desert's insatiable hunger, a phantom parade, forever marching in the mirage of history. It is a story whispered in the rustle of the wind, etched in the shifting patterns of the dunes. Their ghostly absence serves as a profound, unsettling reminder of how easily even the mightiest can be, erased by the indifferent hand of time and sand. It speaks to the terrifying fragility of human endeavor against the immense, ancient power of the natural world, a power that can simply open its vast, silent maw and swallow the very echo of ambition whole. And as you drift deeper into the night, listen closely, for in the profound silence that follows, you might almost hear the distant, muffled tread of 50,000 spectral souls, still marching, forever lost in the boundless, golden heart of the world's oldest mystery. Asterisk, asterisk, the ocean, vast and indifferent, holds secrets deeper than its trenches, tales of vessels that simply vanished, leaving behind nothing but an unsettling emptiness. But what of a ship found adrift, sails unfurled, cargo intact, yet utterly devoid of life? Imagine the chilling scene, a perfectly seaworthy brigantine, swaying gently on the endless swells. A phantom silhouette against the grey Atlantic, its decks silent, its cabins eerily still. This is the enduring mystery of the Mary Celeste, a tale whispered by sailors through generations, a riddle the sea has never relinquished. Our story truly begins on that fateful December day in 1872, when the British brigantine Dei Gratia, captained by David Morehouse, sighted a vessel behaving erratically, its sails partially set, yet no one seemed to be at the helm. As they drew closer, a profound unease settled upon Morehouse and his crew. There was no distress flag, no sign of damage, yet the ship was clearly abandoned. A boarding party, led by First Mate Oliver Devoe, cautiously stepped onto the deck of the Mary Celeste. What they found, or rather what they didn't find, would forever haunt the annals of maritime history. The ship was in remarkable order. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was undisturbed in its holds. Personal belongings of the crew, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, were found in their cabins. Clothes were neatly folded. A sewing machine lay with a piece of fabric still under the needle. A child's toy rested on a bunk. In the galley, a half-eaten meal of breakfast stood on the table, as if the crew had simply stepped away for a moment. The ship's logbook, found in the captain's cabin, contained entries up to November 25th, speaking of calm seas and good weather. The last entry was 9 days before the discovery, painting a picture of normalcy that utterly contradicted the haunting scene before them. Yet, the 10 souls aboard Captain Briggs, his family and his 7-man crew, were gone, vanished, without a trace. No struggle, no signs of violence, no distress flares. No lifeboats missing, though one small boat used for sounding was gone, its absence often overlooked in the initial accounts. It was as if they had simply stepped off the edge of the world. The lack of any definitive explanation fueled a maelstrom of theories, each more tantalizing and unsettling than the last. Was it a sudden squall, a rogue wave so immense it swept everyone overboard, yet left the ship largely untouched? Unlikely, given the ship's condition. Could it have been mutiny, a violent takeover by a desperate crew? But why leave the valuable cargo and personal effects? Piracy was considered, yet nothing was stolen. The ship, with its valuable cargo, was eventually salvaged. But the enigma of its crew persisted. More fantastical explanations quickly took root. Sea monsters, krokens, rising from the depths to snatch souls from the deck. Alien abduction, a notion born from later anxieties. Some whispered of a spontaneous combustion of the alcohol cargo, creating a sudden, terrifying blast that forced an immediate abandonment, though no charring or explosion damage was ever found. One chilling theory proposed that the captain, fearing the volatile fumes of the alcohol barrels and perhaps witnessing a small, localized explosion, ordered everyone into the sounding boat, intending to tow it behind the ship. A sudden shift in the weather, a snapping tow line, and the Mary Celeste would have sailed on, leaving its human cargo to the mercy of the merciless waves. But this, too, remains speculation. The Mary Celeste sails on in the collective imagination, a spectral enigma, a haunting riddle whispered by the ocean currents. It is a tale that speaks not of a ship lost, but of lives simply ceasing, swallowed by an unknown horror or a profound, unimaginable miscalculation. The very ordinariness of the scene discovered aboard the half-eaten meal, the child's toy, the undelivered fabric, lends an unsettling intimacy to the mystery. It compels us to ponder the final moments, the last decision, the terror or hope that led 10 souls to abandon a perfectly sound vessel. The sea, in its vast, indifferent power, has held this secret for over a century and a half, leaving us with only the chilling silence of a ghost ship forever carrying the unknown fate of its vanished crew to an unseen, eternal shore. And as the night deepens, listen closely, for the creak of its timbers might just be the only sound left of those who sailed into oblivion. Asterisk on the desolate shores of a vast, untamed continent, where the whispers of ancient forests met the relentless roar of the ocean, a profound mystery still lingers, a haunting whisper on the wind. It is the spectral tale of Roanoke, a name that evokes not battle or ruin, but a chilling, profound absence. Imagine a nascent dream, planted with hope and ambition, simply evaporating, leaving behind only the ghost of an unanswered question. The year is 1587. The stage is a sliver of land off the coast of what is now North Carolina, an island called Roanoke. Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, sought to establish England's first permanent foothold in the New World, a strategic outpost against rival Spain and a source of raw materials. To this end, a group of 117 English settlers, men, women, and children, led by Governor John White, arrived with dreams of new beginnings, of carving a home from the wilderness. Among them was Eleanor Dare, White's daughter, who would soon give birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. A flicker of hope in a land both beautiful and brutal. The initial weeks were a whirlwind of activity clearing land, erecting rudimentary shelters, attempting to forge a delicate peace with the wary local Native American tribes, but supplies dwindled, and the harsh realities of pioneering in a wild land quickly became apparent. Reluctantly, in August of that same year, Governor John White, torn between his duty and his love for his family, boarded a ship bound for England, promising to return swiftly with vital provisions and reinforcements. He left behind his daughter, his granddaughter, and the entire hopeful, yet vulnerable, colony. The swift return, however, was not to be. England was locked in a bitter struggle with the Spanish Armada, a monumental naval conflict that consumed all resources and attention. White's desperate pleas for aid were postponed, ignored, then utterly forgotten amidst the roar of cannons and the clash of empires. 3 agonizing years dragged by. Each day, the colony on Roanoke Island surely looked out to the horizon, hoping for the sight of English sails, a lifeline from home. Each day, the horizon remained empty, a vast, indifferent blue dot. Finally, in 1590, John White secured passage back to Roanoke. His heart must have pounded with a mixture of hope and dread as his ship approached the familiar shores. What he found would forever etch the name Roanoke into the dark annals of unexplained disappearances. The settlement was utterly deserted. The palisade, built to protect the homes, stood silent and unbroken, save for one chilling clue. Carved deeply into a post was the single, ominous word, Croatoan. On a nearby tree, the letters Crow were etched. A profound, unsettling silence hung in the air. There were no human remains, no signs of struggle, no abandoned tools, no scattered personal belongings that might suggest a hurried, desperate flight. It was as if the entire community had simply dematerialized. The silence of the empty buildings, the undisturbed earth, deepened the mystery to an agonizing degree. What became of the lost colony? The word Croatoan provided the most immediate, yet ultimately inconclusive, lead. Croatoan was the name of a friendly Native American tribe living on a nearby island, Hatteras. Was it a message, a desperate plea indicating their relocation to the neighboring island? Perhaps due to dwindling supplies or a sudden, unexplained threat. John White believed it was a prearranged signal. He had instructed them to carve a cross above any message if they were in distress, and no cross was found. Yet, stormy weather prevented him from reaching Croatoan Island to investigate further. Other theories have risen, each one a thread woven into the shroud of this haunting enigma. Did they succumb to disease, a silent plague sweeping through the vulnerable population? Did they face violent conflicts with other, less friendly, Native American tribes, overwhelmed and slaughtered, their bodies hidden? Or, as some suggest, did they assimilate with local tribes, intermarrying and blending into the existing communities, their English identities slowly dissolving into the vast, unknown wilderness? Archaeological digs have found some European artifacts in Native American settlements nearby, hinting at a possible assimilation, but never a definitive answer. The lost colony became more than just a historical event. It transformed into a chilling cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the fragile foothold early settlers had in the vast, untamed wilderness. It spoke to the immense power of the land to consume, to erase, to simply absorb human ambition into its ancient, inscrutable embrace. Even today, the island seems to hold its breath, guarding the spectral secrets of those who simply ceased to be swallowed by the profound silence of a new world. And, as the night draws you deeper, one might almost hear the faint echo of a child's laughter or the quiet murmur of a mother's voice, carried on the lonely winds that sweep across the sands of Roanoke, forever asking the unanswerable question. The boundless blue canvas of the Pacific, a realm of unimaginable beauty and terrifying indifference, often calls to the audacious, but sometimes it answers with an inscrutable silence, swallowing dreams and legends whole. So it was with Amelia Earhart, a name synonymous with soaring ambition, a woman who dared to challenge the very limits of human flight, only to vanish into the vast, empty embrace of the sky and sea, leaving behind only the echo of her courage and the haunting question of her ultimate fate. It was July 1937. The world watched, captivated, as Amelia Earhart, already a celebrated aviation pioneer, embarked on her most audacious feat, an attempt to circumnavigate the globe at its widest point with her navigator, Fred Noonan. Her Lockheed Electra 10E, a gleaming silver bird of destiny, was more than just an aircraft. It was a symbol of an era, a testament to humanity's burgeoning mastery of the air. They had conquered vast stretches of ocean, navigated treacherous weather, and overcome mechanical challenges. Their journey was nearly complete, a triumph within their grasp. Their final, critical leg was from Lae, New Guinea, to Howland Island, a tiny, remote speck of land in the immense central Pacific, barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide. It was a pinprick in an ocean of infinity, a target requiring pinpoint navigation over thousands of miles of featureless water. For hours they flew, battling headwinds, battling exhaustion. The sun beat down, the engines droned, and the radio crackled with a tenuous, fading connection to the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca, stationed off Howland Island, desperately trying to guide them in. Then the transmissions grew faint, laced with static, tinged with a growing urgency. KHAQQ calling. We must be on you, but cannot see you. Fuel is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. Amelia's voice, calm yet strained, cut through the airwaves. Later, another, more desperate plea. We are on the line 157,337. We are running north and south. And then a final, chilling silence. Just the hiss of static, then nothing. The silver bird, its engines perhaps sputtering their last, simply slipped from the sky. What happened in those final, desperate moments? Did the Lockheed Electra run out of fuel, plunging into the unforgiving depths of the Pacific, leaving no trace, swallowed by the abyssal darkness? Was she forced down onto a remote, uncharted island, perhaps one of the countless uninhabited atolls that dot the vast ocean, where she and Noonan might have faced a slow, agonizing demise from thirst or starvation, their last breaths exhaled into the indifferent tropical air? The search that followed was monumental, one of the most extensive in naval history. Warships, planes, and countless personnel scoured vast swathes of the Pacific, driven by a global hope to find the lost aviator. Every island, every reef, every shimmering stretch of water was examined. Yet, despite the immense effort, no definitive wreckage of the Electra was ever found. No human remains, no debris that could be definitively linked to her plane. The ocean, ancient and silent, kept its secrets close, its surface shimmering with unanswered questions. Theories, like restless spirits, have swirled around Earhart's disappearance for decades. The official explanation points to a simple, tragic outcome: a lack of fuel, an inability to locate the island, and a crash into the sea. But the utter lack of wreckage, the complete vanishing, has fueled a myriad of other possibilities. Some suggest she and Noonan made it to Gardner Island now, Nikomaroro, an uninhabited atoll, and perished there as castaways. This theory gained traction with the discovery of possible artifacts and even bones that could be hers, though definitive proof remains elusive. Others whisper of a more sinister fate, that she was on a top-secret spying mission for the US government, captured by the Japanese and held prisoner. This theory, while largely debunked, speaks to the tantalizing allure of a conspiracy, a hidden truth. Amelia Earhart's disappearance remains one of the most enduring and poignant mysteries of the 20th century. Her ambition soared to touch the heavens, but her ultimate fate remains a haunting testament to the vast, indifferent power of the sea and sky. A reminder that even the most determined human spirit can be utterly consumed by the wild, untamed forces of nature. Her final broadcast, "We are on the line," echoes through time, a phantom signal from a brave woman who flew into the unknown and never returned. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the faint, distant hum of an engine. A silver ghost forever traversing the boundless expanse of the Pacific, searching for a speck of land that never appeared. Asterisk beneath the ancient, fertile earth of Sichuan, China, a revelation stirred, profound and unsettling, challenging the very fabric of accepted history. For millennia, the ground held its breath, guarding a secret so magnificent, so utterly alien, that its uncovering in 1986 felt like the unearthing of a forgotten myth. This was Sangsing Dui, the remnant of a civilization that rose with enigmatic grandeur, flourished in mysterious splendor, and then, as suddenly as it appeared, simply vanished. The discovery began, almost accidentally, by local farmers digging for clay. What they unearthed were not mere shards of pottery, but a treasure trove of astonishing artifacts. unlike anything previously known from China's Bronze Age, to sacrificial pits, filled with objects intentionally broken and buried, yielded a breathtaking array of bronze masks and heads, colossal in scale, with exaggerated, otherworldly features, bulging eyes, prominent noses, and strange, angular ears that seemed to stretch into the heavens. There were human-like figures standing on pedestals, draped in intricate robes, some nearly 9 feet tall, their expressions serene yet distant. Ornate golden objects, jade ceremonial blades, and elephant tusks, imported from distant lands, added to the bewildering spectacle. Who were these people? Where did they come from, with their unique artistry and seemingly advanced metallurgical skills that produced such enormous and complex bronzes? Their aesthetic was entirely distinct from the contemporaneous Shang dynasty in the Central Plains, the accepted cradle of Chinese civilization. There were no written records found, no tablets or inscriptions to tell their story, to name their kings, or to explain their unique cosmology. They were, in essence, a ghost civilization, a powerful culture that existed outside the known narratives of ancient China. The sheer scale and artistry of the Sanxingdui artifacts suggest a complex hierarchical society, one with a sophisticated spiritual or religious practice centered around these imposing bronze figures. Were they deities, ancestors, shamans? The deliberate burial of these precious objects, often ritually broken and burned, speaks of a profound ritual, perhaps a desperate offering, a final plea, or a sacred act of abandonment. But the most baffling aspect of the Sanxingdui civilization is its abrupt disappearance. After flourishing for over 1,000 years, particularly between 1200 and 1000 BC, the site of Sanxingdui was suddenly abandoned. Their magnificent city, with its impressive walls and thriving workshops, became a silent ruin. No clear records explain their exodus. No chronicles detail their demise. What compelled them to leave their grand city, their unique artistic tradition, and their very existence to the slow reclamation of the earth? Was it an environmental catastrophe, a cataclysmic flood from the nearby Min River, or a prolonged drought that rendered their fertile lands barren? Did internal strife erupt, a violent rebellion that shattered their societal structure from within, leaving their cities desolated and their sacred objects deliberately desecrated before burial? Or perhaps, as some theories suggest, they were displaced by external invaders, a more powerful force sweeping through the region, absorbing or scattering their people, ultimately erasing their distinct cultural identity from the historical record. The Sanxingdui civilization remains a silent, haunting query, a testament to a people who rose from the mists of antiquity only to return to the earth, leaving behind only their astonishing, unreadable legacy. Their colossal bronze faces, with their enigmatic expressions, seem to stare out from across millennia, guarding a secret that the soil has kept for so long. They are a powerful reminder that history is not a complete manuscript, but a fragmented parchment, and that beneath the ground we walk upon, entire worlds, magnificent and mysterious, can lie buried, whispering of lives lived and then profoundly, inexplicably ceased. And as the night deepens around you, you might feel the weight of their gaze, the silent question echoing from the depths of time, the might of Rome. A colossal empire that spanned continents was built upon the unyielding discipline of its legions, a force seemingly unstoppable, eternal. Yet, even within this formidable power, there exists a chilling void, a phantom army that simply vanished from the annals of imperial might. Imagine a seasoned fighting force, thousands strong, a thunderous tide of bronze and iron marching into the mist-shrouded wilds, only to dissolve into the very air, leaving behind not a single trace, not a single cry of battle, just an unsettling silence. This is the enduring mystery of Rome's legendary Ninth Legion, the Legio IX Hispana. Our tale transports us to the rugged, untamed northern reaches of Britannia, a land perpetually at the empire's farthest edge, where the Roman grip was always tenuous. It is the early 2nd century AD. The year 108 AD marks their last confirmed presence in Ebracum, modern-day York, their fortress a beacon of Roman authority amidst the fierce, painted tribes of the Picts and other indigenous peoples. The Ninth Legion was no green recruit. It was a battle-hardened unit, a veteran force with a long and distinguished, if sometimes troubled, history. They had fought across Spain, served in the Jewish wars, and for decades had been the vanguard of Roman expansion in Britannia. Their mission in this harsh frontier land was relentless: to quell barbarian uprisings, to push the boundaries of Roman dominion further north, to secure the fragile peace won by previous campaigns. The landscape was brutal, the enemies relentless, and the weather unforgiving, but the legionaries were Rome's finest, trained to endure, to conquer. Yet, sometime after 108 AD, a profound and unsettling silence falls over their records. The Ninth Legion simply vanishes from all Roman official documents. No mention of their redeployment, no account of their disbandment, no records of their veterans being honorably discharged. It is as if a colossal stone, inscribed with their name, was simply lifted from the historical mosaic, leaving a gaping, inexplicable hole. What spectral fate befell this formidable Roman force? Did they march north into the wild, untamed Caledonian lands deep into what is now Scotland, only to be swallowed by the harsh wilderness and fierce, unyielding tribes? Was it a decisive and bloody defeat, so utterly catastrophic, so humiliating for Roman prestige, that the empire chose to suppress all mention of it? Imagine the sheer scale of such a disaster. Thousands of men, legionaries, auxiliary troops, all cut down, their bodies lost to the bog and forest, their standards captured, their very memory erased from official chronicles to protect the illusion of Rome's invincibility. Or was their end more insidious, less dramatic, yet equally profound? Some theories suggest a slow attrition, a grinding down by constant skirmishes, disease, and desertion, until the legion simply ceased to be a viable fighting unit and was quietly disbanded, its surviving members scattered to other legions, their distinct identity dissolving. But for a unit of its renown, such a quiet dissolution seems improbable, almost an insult to its legacy. Another, darker whisper suggests they may have been sent to a distant, unrecorded campaign in the East, suffering a more ignominious end that was deemed best forgotten in the annals of history. The enduring mystery, however, lies in the utter lack of archaeological evidence. For such a massive military unit, one would expect to find traces: a forgotten camp, a mass grave, a cache of discarded equipment. Yet, despite extensive archaeological investigations in northern Britain and beyond, no definitive site of the Ninth Legion's final demise has ever been conclusively identified. Their absence is as profound as if the very earth opened up and consumed them. The Ninth Legion's disappearance is a haunting void in Roman military history, a phantom army forever marching into the mists of unrecorded time. It is a stark reminder of the empire's ultimate vulnerability, even at the height of its power. to the untamed forces beyond its borders, and perhaps to the silent, indifferent hand of historical erasure. As the long night draws in, you can almost hear the faint, echoing sound of their marching sandals. A ghost legion still patrolling the boundaries of an empire that could not save them. Forever lost in the desolate, mist-shrouded wildlands of Britannia, in the arid canyons and mesa tops of the American Southwest, where the sun beats down on ancient red rock and the wind whispers through petrified forests. The spirits of an ancient people still linger. These are the Anasazi, known today as the ancestral Pueblans, master builders who carved magnificent cities into cliff faces, their dwellings now silent sentinels overlooking a profound and haunting enigma. Imagine vibrant communities, thriving for centuries, then, almost as if exhaling their last collective breath, simply evaporating, leaving behind only the echoing silence of their deserted, stone-built homes. For over a millennium, from around 100 AD, these ingenious people flourished across the four corners, Regina Stark, beautiful land where the borders of modern Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado meet. They were not nomads, but settled farmers, cultivating maize, beans, and squash with remarkable ingenuity in a challenging environment. They built intricate irrigation systems, sophisticated roadways, and, most famously, spectacular multi-story cliff dwellings in places like Mesa Verde and the monumental, complex, great houses of Chaco Canyon, structures that dwarf anything else. From their time in North America, these were thriving centers, bustling with life, trade, and ceremonial activity. A testament to their advanced societal organization and spiritual depth. Their artistry was profound, delicate pottery, intricate weaving, and rock carvings that still speak of their cosmology and daily lives. They understood the movements of the sun and stars, aligning their structures with celestial events, hinting at a deep connection to the cosmos. For centuries, their civilization grew, adapted, and innovated, a vibrant tapestry woven into the very fabric of the red earth. But then a subtle yet profound shift began. By the late 13th century, a chilling pattern emerged. The great houses of Chaco were abandoned. The cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, once teeming with life, began to empty. Within a few short decades, vast regions were depopulated. The meticulous farming plots lay fallow, the ceremonial kivas fell silent, and the intricate network of their society simply dissolved. The ancestral Pueblans did not die out en masse. Their descendants, the modern Pueblo peoples, like the Hopi and Zuni, still thrive today. But the grand, centralized civilization, the magnificent cities carved into stone, simply ceased to be. The people, it seemed, just moved on. But why? What compelled this widespread exodus, this profound societal migration away from the very places they had poured generations of effort and devotion into building? The answers, like the desert wind, are elusive, leaving only fragments of a story. The most prominent theory points to a prolonged and severe drought. A great drought that gripped the region for decades from roughly 1276 to 1299 AD. Their sophisticated farming techniques, honed over centuries, may have finally buckled under the relentless absence of rain. Crops withered, water sources dried up, and the very foundation of their subsistence crumbled. Imagine the slow, agonizing realization that the land could no longer sustain them. The heartbreaking decision to leave ancestral homes, knowing that to stay meant starvation. But climate change rarely acts alone. Was it exacerbated by internal conflicts, perhaps driven by dwindling resources, as communities turned on each other in a desperate fight for survival? Some archaeological evidence suggests increased violence in the later periods. Or were they displaced by migrating tribes, pushed out by a new influx of people entering the region, leading to a slow, incremental absorption or dispersal? While modern Pueblo peoples are their direct descendants, the specific reasons for the widespread abandonment of their magnificent ancient homes remain elusive. A collective memory fractured by time and the vastness of the land. The empty dwellings stand today as silent monuments, testament to a profound, unsettling migration. The sun-drenched ruins whisper of a grand civilization stepping back from the cliff's edge of history, leaving behind only the haunting silence of their magnificent, unpeopled cities. They are a poignant reminder that even the most ingenious human endeavors are profoundly vulnerable to the indifferent hand of nature, and that sometimes a people simply chooses to disappear, fading into the vastness, leaving their once vibrant homes to the whispering wind and the eternal, watchful silence of the canyons. As you close your eyes, you might almost hear the echoes of ancient ceremonies, a distant song carried on the arid air before the profound quiet of their absence settles in once more. Asterisk from the ancient sun-drenched dialogues of a revered philosopher. A myth was born, a vision of an empire of unimaginable grandeur, swallowed whole by the merciless sea in a single, cataclysmic night. Its name echoes through the ages with a haunting allure. Atlantis. Imagine a civilization so advanced, so wealthy, so powerful, that its very existence now seems the stuff of dreams. A golden city plunged into watery oblivion, leaving only the tantalizing whisper of its past glory. Our journey begins not with a discovery, but with a philosophy. It was Plato, the great Greek thinker, who, around 360 BC, first penned the detailed account of Atlantis in his works Timidus and Cretius. He described an island kingdom situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, thought to be the Strait of Gibraltar, larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined. Its people, the Atlanteans, were said to be descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea. They possessed unparalleled architectural genius, building vast concentric circles of land and water, adorned with precious metals and vibrant colors. Their society was highly organized, their technology far ahead of its time, and their wealth immeasurable. For generations, they lived in harmony, their virtues shining bright. But then, as Plato recounted, the Atlanteans became corrupted by greed and a lust for power. Their ambition led them to conquer lands far and wide, threatening even Athens itself. This hubris, this unchecked arrogance, roused the wrath of the gods. In a single dreadful day and night, Atlantis was consumed by earthquakes and floods, its magnificent cities plunging beneath the waves, disappearing forever around 9600 BC. But was Atlantis merely a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale crafted by Plato to illustrate the dangers of imperial ambition and moral decay? Or does this myth, so richly detailed, hold a kernel of historical truth, a memory of a forgotten land, a vanished people? For millennia, explorers, philosophers, and dreamers have been captivated by the siren call of Atlantis, seeking its sunken ruins across the globe. From the depths of the Mediterranean to the vastness of the Atlantic, from the Caribbean to Antarctica, countless locations have been proposed as the lost continent. Could it be linked to real geological events, echoes of ancient catastrophes that became woven into a grander narrative? The volcanic eruption of Thera Santorini around 1600 BC, which decimated the flourishing Minoan civilization on Crete, is often cited as a possible inspiration. This event, a cataclysm of fire and tsunamis, bears a chilling resemblance to Plato's description of Atlantis' end, though the timeline is vastly different. Could Plato have been retelling an older story, distorted by time and oral tradition? Other theories point to lost landmasses swallowed by rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age, leaving behind only vague ancestral memories of countenance that once were. The enduring allure of Atlantis lies in its perfect blend of impossible grandeur and tragic demise. It taps into a primal human fascination with lost worlds, with hidden knowledge, with the idea that beneath the seemingly mundane surface of our world, ancient wonders might still lie concealed. The lack of any concrete archaeological evidence, any undisputed physical proof of its existence, as Plato described, only deepens the mystery. It allows Atlantis to shimmer perpetually in the realm of the possible, forever just beyond the grasp of definitive discovery. Atlantis remains a ghost of a dream, a haunting echo of a glory that once was and then was not. It whispers of the impermanence of even the mightiest civilizations, of the relentless power of natural forces, and of the profound consequences of human hubris. As the night deepens, listen closely to the murmur of the waves, for they carry the oldest secrets, and perhaps, in their endless ebb and flow, they still whisper the name of a city that sleeps beneath the sea, forever lost, forever remembered. On the desolate, windswept rock of Eilean Mora, a tiny, uninhabited island within the remote, unforgiving Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland, a chilling mystery unfolded with the sudden onset of a winter gale. It is a tale of 3 experienced men, guardians of a beacon against the wild Atlantic, who simply vanished into the desolate air, leaving behind only the haunting silence of an empty lighthouse and an enduring, unanswerable question. Imagine a solitary tower built to defy the fiercest storms, standing proud against the crashing waves, yet within its stout walls, life itself inexplicably evaporated. It was December 1900. The lighthouse on Eilean Mora was one of the most remote and challenging posts in the Scottish lighthouse service. Its purpose was vital, to guide ships safely through treacherous waters. 3 dedicated keepers were on duty: Thomas Marshall, the second assistant; James Duquette, the principal keeper, a seasoned veteran; and Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, known for his hot temper and experience. Their lives were defined by isolation, routine, and the rhythmic sweep of the lamp. On December 15th, a passing steamer, the Arctur, noted that the Eilean Mora light was not working. This was highly unusual. Despite the urgent message, severe storms prevented any relief vessel from reaching the island for several days. The sea raged, as if guarding the secret that lay within the silent tower. Finally, on December 26th, the relief vessel, the Hesperus, managed to anchor. Joseph Moore, the replacement keeper, stepped ashore, his heart heavy with foreboding. He climbed the steep, narrow path to the lighthouse, an eerie silence greeting him. There was no greeting from the keepers, no sign of life. The main gate was shut, but the kitchen door stood ajar. A profound, unsettling emptiness enveloped him as he stepped inside. What he found deepened the mystery to an agonizing degree. The beds were unmade, suggesting they had left suddenly. In the kitchen, a meal of meat, potatoes, and pickles sat uneaten on the table, as if someone had just stepped away. An overturned chair lay beside it. The clock had stopped. In the logbook, the last entry was on December 15th, speaking of gales and storms, but beyond that, nothing. The lamps were clean, the equipment in order. The only other anomaly was the absence of waterproof clothing, suggesting the men had left the lighthouse without preparing for the elements, or that their gear had been ripped away by something immense. The lighthouse itself showed no signs of major damage, certainly nothing that could explain the simultaneous disappearance of 3 experienced men. What monstrous force could have claimed all 3 men simultaneously, leaving no struggle, no body, no definitive clue? The official inquiry, led by Robert Muirhead, superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board, concluded that the keepers were swept away by a colossal rogue wave, a single devastating wall of water that breached the cliffs and dragged them into the churning abyss. This theory, while plausible, fails to explain why all 3 men would have been outside the lighthouse at the same moment during a severe storm, or the undisturbed nature of the kitchen. Other, more chilling theories abound. Was it a sudden madness, an argument escalating into a violent confrontation, perhaps fueled by the intense isolation leading to murder and a desperate disposal of bodies by the sole survivor, who then perished himself? The volatile temper of Donald MacArthur has often been cited in this dark narrative. Could a massive wave have swept one man away, and the others, in a desperate attempt to rescue him, were also consumed by the unforgiving sea? Or was something more inexplicable at play, a presence from the churning depths below, or a spectral encounter in the unforgiving wilderness that surrounds the isolated lighthouse? The folklore of the region is rich with tales of sea spirits and ancient curses. The Flannan Isles lighthouse stands today, a silent sentinel guarding a void in history, forever casting its beam over an enduring, unsettling enigma. The wind still howls around its stark white tower, carrying the unanswered questions across the waves. The eerie silence that greeted Joseph Moore on that December day still whispers from its lonely halls, a profound testament to a mystery that the vast, cold ocean has never confessed. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant bantam clang of a lighthouse door opening onto an unknown, watery fate, deep within the unyielding embrace of the Amazonian jungle, where emerald canopies cast eternal shadows and the air is thick with the breath of ancient growth. A legend whispers of a grand, forgotten city. It is a metropolis of untold riches, of advanced civilization, a hidden world known only as the lost city of Z. Imagine a place so elusive, so deeply guarded by nature, that the very quest for it became a journey into madness, a descent into the profound silence of oblivion. Swallowing explorers whole, our tale begins not with ancient maps, but with tantalizing whispers from the 17th century. European explorers and missionaries returned from the Amazon with fragmented accounts of vast, interconnected settlements, of sophisticated indigenous societies, far more complex than the primitive tribes they encountered. These reports, often dismissed as fanciful exaggerations, spoke of a grand city of gold nestled deep within the unexplored reaches of Brazil. For centuries, this became the elusive prize, a phantom shimmering on the horizon of every adventurer's dream. But it was a particular man, Colonel Percy Harrison Fawcett, a British explorer of formidable will and unwavering conviction, who became utterly obsessed with its discovery. Fawcett was a figure of the early 20th century, a man of scientific rigor, yet possessed by an almost mystical belief in the existence of this lost city. He christened it Z, a symbol of the ultimate, the unknown, the final frontier of exploration. He meticulously studied ancient maps, indigenous legends, and fragmented historical accounts, piecing together a mosaic that convinced him of Z's tangible reality. He believed it was the remnant of an ancient, highly advanced civilization, perhaps even a colony of Atlantis, a place where wisdom and wealth awaited discovery. In 1925, driven by this singular, consuming vision, Fawcett, then 58, embarked on his final, fateful expedition, accompanied by his eldest son, Jack, and his son's friend, Raleigh Rimmel. He plunged into the emerald abyss of the Mato Grosso region of Brazil. They were equipped with rudimentary supplies, an unshakable faith, and a last message dispatched from the edge of the known world. We are going on into the region where we hope to find traces of the lost cities. And then silence, profound, complete. The jungle, an ancient, indifferent guardian, simply closed around them. No further dispatches, no signs of distress, no desperate cries for help. Fawcett, his son, and Rimmel simply evaporated into the dense, green labyrinth. What became of them? The theories are as numerous and tangled as the jungle vines. Did they succumb to the myriad dangers of the Amazon? Disease, from malaria to yellow fever, was a constant, invisible enemy, capable of felling the strongest men. Starvation, as supplies dwindled in the unforgiving wilderness, or perhaps, as many feared, they were attacked by hostile indigenous tribes, wary of outsiders encroaching upon their ancestral lands. The jungle, in its vastness, offered countless ways to disappear without a trace, despite numerous search parties, including expeditions funded by Fawcett's wife and countless other adventurers in the decades that followed. No definitive trace of Fawcett or his companions, nor the fabled city itself, has ever been conclusively found. False leads, misinterpreted clues, and the sheer immensity of the Amazon thwarted every attempt. The very act of searching became a perilous undertaking, with many other explorers perishing or going missing in their own quests for Z. The Amazon, an ancient and indifferent guardian, has kept its secrets well, transforming Fawcett's quest into one of the most compelling and tragic disappearances of the exploration age. The lost city of Z remains an enduring symbol of resistance, an elusiveness, a phantom city shimmering in the humid air of the deepest Amazon, forever luring the bold and the desperate to its unrevealed golden heart. A testament to the jungle's power to reclaim even the most determined souls. And as the night draws around you, you might almost feel the oppressive humidity of the jungle, and hear, in the rustle of unseen leaves, the faint, desperate whispers of a lost explorer, forever seeking a city that may only exist in the realm of dreams. Within the hallowed, hushed halls of Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library lies an artifact that defies comprehension, a relic of parchment and ink whispered to be imbued with ancient secrets, or perhaps an elaborate, centuries-old deception. It is the Voynich manuscript, a book whose every page tantalizes with exquisite mystery, yet whose words remain utterly, profoundly unreadable. Imagine holding a key to forbidden knowledge, a gateway to a lost world, only to find the lock impenetrable, the language a silent, mocking enigma. Our journey into this puzzle begins in 1912, when Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish antiquarian bookseller, discovered the codex in an ancient chest at Villa Mondragon, a Jesuit college in Italy. Even then, its strangeness was immediately apparent. It was an anomaly among anomalies. The manuscript itself is a small, unassuming volume, about 240 vellum pages, filled with delicate script and vibrant hand-drawn illustrations. Carbon dating has confirmed its antiquity, placing its creation firmly in the early 15th century, somewhere in Central Europe. The inks are consistent with medieval pigments. This is no modern forgery. Its age is undeniable, yet its contents are utterly unlike any other known historical document. The illustrations are a bewildering array of the bizarre and the beautiful. There are botanical sections depicting plants that defy all known classifications, flora with strange roots, impossible flowers, and alien foliage, meticulously drawn as if from life, yet belonging to no terrestrial garden. There are astronomical diagrams, some resembling constellations, others showing complex, whirling patterns unlike any conventional celestial charts, occasionally featuring human figures engaged in mysterious rituals. Then there is the bound section, filled with illustrations of naked women bathing in pools connected by elaborate plumbing, strange networks of tubes and pipes, their expressions serene or perplexed. Finally, the pharmaceutical section displays rows of what appear to be medicinal jars and roots, again of unknown origin, but it is the flowing, elegant script that accompanies every illustration, every section that forms the heart of the mystery. It is a unique, unbroken sequence of characters, written from left to right, with no apparent punctuation or discernible words. This is the Voynich language, a tongue that no one, despite centuries of effort, has ever been able to decipher. Is it an ancient language lost to time, a dialect so obscure it has no surviving relatives? Is it a complex cipher, a coded message painstakingly encrypted by a genius mind, perhaps holding scientific secrets, alchemical formulas, or forbidden religious texts? Or is it, as some skeptics suggest, an elaborate hoax, a beautifully crafted piece of gibberish designed to fool the gullible and the curious, a medieval art project meant to mystify? The very act of trying to decipher it has become a scholarly obsession, a testament to humanity's innate desire to unlock secrets. Cryptographers from both world wars, experts from the NSA, university linguists, and amateur enthusiasts have all tried to break its code, using every tool at their disposal, from frequency analysis to artificial intelligence. All have failed. The patterns of its characters are too complex to be simple substitution ciphers, yet too regular to be mere random scribbles. It behaves like a language, with recurring words and structures, but it resists all attempts at translation. The manuscript remains a silent, haunting challenge, a beautiful enigma that whispers of knowledge just beyond our grasp. It is a profound testament to an unknown mind playing a timeless game with posterity, inviting us into its private, undeciphered world. What dark wonders, what forgotten wisdom, what chilling truths are concealed within its unreadable pages? Or is its true purpose merely to exist as a perfect mystery, forever compelling us to seek answers that may never be found? As the night deepens, you might feel the weight of its unspoken words, the silent hum of a secret that has never been broken, a phantom language echoing from the shadowed corners of time, asterisk on a remote speck of land, adrift in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Pacific Ocean. A profound and chilling tale unfolds. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is a place of haunting beauty, where colossal stone sentinels the moa stand with their vacant eyes, staring out to sea, guarding a profound and unsettling silence. Imagine a vibrant civilization, flourishing in isolation, only to mysteriously unravel, its people seemingly vanishing into the desolation of their own making. leaving behind only the ghosts of their monumental dreams. For centuries, the Rapa Nui people, descendants of Polynesian seafarers, thrived on this isolated volcanic outcrop. They were master navigators, resourceful farmers, and above all, monumental sculptors. From around 1200 AD, they began to carve and erect the iconic moai, some standing over 30 feet tall and weighing over 80 tons. These monolithic figures were not mere statues. They were believed to embody the spirits of ancestors, protecting the island and its inhabitants. The sheer effort required to quarry, transport, and erect these giants speaks to an incredibly organized, hierarchical society, one capable of mobilizing immense resources and labor. Their society was complex, their culture rich with intricate rituals and a unique spiritual connection to their isolated world. The island, though small, was once forested, providing timber for transport rollers, fuel, and shelter. The population grew, perhaps reaching as many as 15,000 people at its peak, but by the time European explorers, led by Dutch navigator Jacob Roggeveen, stumbled upon the island on Easter Sunday in 1722, they found a starkly different scene. The once forested island was largely denuded, barren and treeless. The population had plummeted, reduced to a mere fraction of its former glory. Many of the majestic moai lay toppled, their stone eyes gazing sightlessly at the sky. The once thriving communities were fragmented, seemingly caught in a spiral of decline. The vibrant culture that birthed the moai had, in essence, vanished, leaving behind only the poignant ruins of its former grandeur. What led to this catastrophic decline? A society seemingly disappearing into its own ruins. The prevailing theory points to ecological collapse, a tragic, self-inflicted wound. As the population grew, the demand for resources, particularly timber, became unsustainable. Trees were felled for moai transport, for fuel, for canoes, until the island's fragile ecosystem was irrevocably damaged. Deforestation led to soil erosion, impacting agriculture and reducing the land's ability to sustain life. Imagine the slow, agonizing realization that the land could no longer sustain them. The heartbreaking decision to leave ancestral homes, knowing that to stay meant starvation. This environmental degradation likely triggered a cascade of other devastating factors. With resources dwindling, internal conflicts likely erupted. Evidence from archaeological sites suggests increased warfare and even cannibalism in later periods. A desperate struggle for survival among a people facing utter collapse. The toppled moai may be a testament to these internal conflicts, symbols of a broken society whose gods had seemingly abandoned them. Then came the external shocks. European contact brought not only diseases to which the islanders had no immunity, but also slave raids in the mid-19th century that further decimated the already struggling population. Those who survived were left with a fractured culture, their ancestral knowledge diminished, their magnificent past a haunting shadow. Easter Island stands as a poignant, stark warning, a microcosm of human vulnerability to environmental destruction and internal strife. It is a story whispered by the relentless Pacific winds, a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition and the profound consequences of exhausting a finite world. The silent moai stand as eternal guardians over a profound loss, a once vibrant culture that, in essence, disappeared into the desolation of its own making. As the night draws you deeper, you might almost hear the distant, phantom crash of a colossal stone statue falling into the silent embrace of a world stripped bare. As the vast, snow-laden expanse of Russia groaned under the weight of revolution and civil war, A treasure of unimaginable value was spirited away, only to vanish into the tumultuous annals of history. It was the gold reserve of the Russian Empire, a shimmering testament to centuries of imperial power, now a ghost of its former glory. Imagine vast, gleaming riches, enough to turn the tide of a desperate war, entrusted to desperate men, only to be swallowed by the chaos and the unforgiving Siberian winter, never to be seen again. Our story plunges into the brutal heart of the Russian Civil War, a maelstrom of red and white loyalty and betrayal that tore the newly formed Soviet Union apart in the early 20th century. In 1918, facing the relentless advance of the Bolshevik Red Army, the anti-Bolshevik White Army, commanded by Admiral Alexander Kolchak, made a desperate decision. They would transport the entirety of the Imperial Gold Reserve, staggering 500 tons of gold, bullion, coins, and precious artifacts, estimated today to be worth tens of billions of dollars eastward, away from the encroaching communists. This was not merely a transfer of wealth. It was an act of profound desperation, a strategic gamble to finance their war effort and secure the future of the anti-Bolshevik cause. The gold, meticulously packed into thousands of wooden crates, was loaded onto special armored trains. The Trans-Siberian Railway, a lifeline stretched across the vast, frozen landscape, became the artery through which this immense fortune was meant to flow to safety. The journey was an odyssey of ice and fire, through the unforgiving cold of the Siberian winter, across thousands of miles of track besieged by partisan attacks, sabotage, and the constant threat of a collapsing front line. The gold train lumbered on. Imagine the icy breath of the wind whistling through the carriages, the constant fear of ambush, the gnawing hunger and exhaustion endured by the guards, tasked with protecting this glittering symbol of a dying empire. But somewhere amidst the chaos, the frozen wastes, and the desperate struggle for power, a substantial portion of this legendary fortune simply disappeared. As Admiral Kolchak's forces retreated, besieged on all sides, the chain of command fractured. Communications were erratic, records were lost, and the very concept of order dissolved into the swirling snows of civil war. What became of this legendary treasure? The theories are as numerous and conflicting as the factions that fought for control of Russia. Was it plundered by bandits, opportunistic warlords who saw the gold as their own personal spoils of war? The Siberian wilderness, vast and lawless, offered countless hiding places. Could it have been secretly buried by own desperate forces, a hidden cache intended for a future, triumphant return that never came? Or perhaps, as some dark whispers suggest, it was appropriated by Kolchak's inner circle, diverted for personal gain amidst the anarchy, melting into the shadows of individual greed. The harsh Siberian winter, combined with relentless skirmishes, train derailments, and the sheer scale of the conflict, provided a perfect veil for such a monumental loss. Accounts from the time are fragmented and contradictory, making it almost impossible to discern fact from desperate rumor. The eventual defeat of Kolchak's White Army and his own execution in Irkutsk sealed the fate of the gold, consigning its true whereabouts to the realm of perpetual mystery. The Tsar's gold remains one of the most alluring and elusive treasures in history, a ghostly gleam in the snows of a bygone era. It tantalizes treasure hunters and historians alike with its unrecovered riches and the dark secrets of its ultimate fate. Its disappearance is a profound testament to the destructive power of war, an echo of lost wealth and shattered dreams, forever shimmering just beyond our grasp. And as the night deepens, You might almost hear the distant, phantom rumble of a train, laden with a lost fortune, echoing across the frozen, silent plains of Siberia, beneath the shifting sands and the silent emerald waters of the Gulf of Corinth. A haunting tale persists, a myth born from the sudden, cataclysmic wrath of the earth and sea. It is the tragic end of Helike, a thriving ancient Greek city, swallowed whole in a single, terrifying night. Imagine a vibrant metropolis, a center of worship and prosperity, suddenly plunging into the abyss, becoming a watery ghost town, its memory preserved only in the terrified whispers of survivors and the silent currents that now flow over its ruins. Our story takes us to ancient Achaia, in the northern Peloponnese, around 373 BC. Helike was no mere village. It was a prominent and wealthy city, a member of the Achaean League, renowned for its magnificent temple dedicated to Poseidon, the formidable god of earthquakes, storms, and the sea. Its prosperity was built on fertile lands and strategic trade, its citizens enjoying the bounty of their rich coastal plain. The city was a place of vibrant festivals, bustling markets, and grand stone structures, living under the seemingly benign gaze of their patron deity. But the earth beneath Greece is a restless, unpredictable entity, a tapestry of shifting tectonic plates. For days leading up to the catastrophe, unsettling signs manifested. Snakes, weasels, and other small creatures were observed abandoning the city in droves, fleeing inland, as if sensing an impending doom that humans, in their hubris, could not perceive. This eerie exodus of animals, a primal warning from the natural world, went largely unheeded. Then, in a single, dreadful night, the earth convulsed. A devastating earthquake, one of unimaginable force, ripped through the region. The ground opened, buildings crumbled, and chaos erupted. But the true horror was yet to come. As the tremors subsided, a colossal tsunami, born from the displaced waters of the Gulf, roared inland. It was a monstrous wall of water, rising higher than any city wall, sweeping over the land with unstoppable force, obliterating Helike in moments. The thriving metropolis, its people, its temples, its very existence, were dragged into the depths, swallowed by the sea itself. The parallels to the mythical Atlantis are chillingly stark. Here was a real city, dedicated to the sea god, meeting a fate almost identical to Plato's cautionary tale, single day and night of fire and flood, plunging a proud civilization into watery oblivion. Was it divine wrath, Poseidon himself enraged, by some unrecorded slight, or was it merely the indifferent, immense power of nature, reminding humanity of its ultimate fragility? For centuries after, Helike's exact location remained a mystery, its existence relegated to myth and historical accounts. Travelers spoke of its ruins being visible in calm waters, a ghostly city shimmering beneath the surface, tantalizingly out of reach. Pausanias, a Greek traveler and geographer writing centuries later, recounted tales of its submerged remnants, of chariots and statues visible through the clear waters, a haunting tableau of a lost world. Modern archaeological efforts, employing advanced underwater techniques, have indeed located its submerged ruins. Layers of silt and sediment have preserved fragments of buildings, pottery, and the ghostly outlines of its streets, a haunting testament to nature's destructive power and the city's sudden demise. Helike now rests silently on the seabed, an archaeological site that is also a poignant burial ground, its past eternally whispered by the currents. Helike stands as a profound reminder of the precariousness of human civilization in the face of Natural forces, a silent city entombed in the seabed. Forever whispering of the night, the earth opened and the sea consumed its children. It is a chilling echo of a time when the gods seemed to walk the earth, and their fury could manifest in a single, devastating blow. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the phantom roar of the tsunami, the ancient cries of a city, consumed by the waves, forever haunting the depths of the gulf from the sprawling, often brutal annals of a crumbling empire. A chilling and unprecedented fate befell a Roman emperor. A blow to imperial prestige so profound it reverberated through the very foundations of Rome. Valerian, the first and only emperor captured alive by an enemy. Imagine the unthinkable humiliation. The divine ruler of the world, a man who commanded legions and claimed divine favor, dragged into captivity, his fate lost to the dark legends of his captors, his very existence seemingly erased from the world he once dominated. Our story unfolds in the tumultuous 3rd century AD, a period of profound crisis for the Roman Empire, a time known as the crisis of the 3rd century. The empire was besieged from all sides, plagued by internal strife, rapid successions of emperors, economic collapse, and relentless external pressures. It was amidst this maelstrom that Publius Licinius Valerianus, a senator of venerable age and high standing, ascended to the purple in 253 AD. He was a man burdened by the weight of a fracturing empire, tasked with defending its vast porous borders. His ultimate test came in the east. The Sasanian Persian Empire, a formidable rival to Rome, had risen in power, threatening Rome's rich eastern provinces. In 260 AD, Valerian personally led his legions to confront the Sasanian king of kings, Shaparai, at the Battle of Edessa, in what is now modern-day Turkey. It was a disastrous campaign from the outset. Roman forces, weakened by plague and strategic blunders, found themselves encircled, cut off from supplies, their morale plummeting. Then came the unthinkable. Valerian, desperate to secure a truce and save his trapped army, agreed to a parley with Shapa. But the negotiations were a trap. Accounts vary, but the outcome was devastatingly clear. Valerian was not merely vanquished. He was seized, taken prisoner by Shapa's forces. The Emperor of Rome, a living god to his subjects, became a captive. A trophy dot. What became of him in Persian captivity remained shrouded in dark legend, a tale whispered with a mixture of horror and humiliation in Roman circles. The Sasanians, keen to exploit their monumental victory, were said to have subjected Valerian to unimaginable indignities. Some accounts claim he was forced to serve as Shapa's personal footstool, the ultimate degradation for a Roman emperor. His regal purple cloak sullied by the dust of the Persian court. Imagine the psychological torture, the crushing despair of a man who once commanded armies, now reduced to a living symbol of utter defeat. Other, more gruesome tales speak of an even more macabre end. It was rumored that after years of humiliation, Valerian was flayed alive, his skin dyed red and stuffed with straw, then displayed as a grotesque, eternal trophy in a Sasanian temple, a chilling warning to all who dared defy Persia. While the exact details of his demise are debated by historians, the core truth remains. He vanished from the Roman world, never to return, never to be seen again by his people. His body was never recovered, his grave never consecrated by Roman hands. Valerian's capture and subsequent vanishing stands as a stark, horrifying symbol of Rome's vulnerability, a dark stain on its imperial pride. It shattered the illusion of the emperor's divine invincibility sending shockwaves through the empire. For a time, it left a profound void in the Roman leadership, contributing to the chaos of the crisis of the 3rd century. His fate is a haunting testament to the fragility of even the most powerful. A chilling reminder that even emperors can be utterly consumed by the tides of war and the merciless hand of a triumphant enemy. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant phantom whispers of Persian triumph and the silent, agonized cries of a captured emperor, lost forever to the shadows of history for hundreds of thousands of years across the vast, frigid landscapes of Eurasia. Another human species walked the earth. Stocky, resilient, masters of their environment, they hunted formidable beasts, crafted intricate tools, adorned themselves, and even buried their dead with a reverence that hints at a complex inner world. These were the Neanderthals, our closest, ancient relatives. But then, as if swept away by an invisible tide, they began to dwindle, and within a few millennia, their presence vanished completely, leaving only their genetic echoes in modern humans, and a profound, haunting question: what caused their disappearance? Our journey into this ancient enigma takes us back to the heart of the last ice age, roughly 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals were perfectly adapted to the cold, harsh environments of Europe and parts of Asia. Their robust build, powerful musculature, and larger brains allowed them to survive and thrive in challenging conditions. They lived in caves, controlled fire, hunted megafauna with spears, and showed remarkable ingenuity in tool-making. Evidence suggests they cared for their sick and injured, and perhaps even possessed a form of symbolic thought, hints of art and ritual found in their ancient sites. For a vast stretch of time, they were the dominant hominin species in their territories, the apex predators of their frosty world. Then, around 45,000 to 50,000 years ago, a new arrival appeared on the scene. Homo sapiens, modern humans, migrating out of Africa. These anatomically modern humans, slenderer, with different hunting strategies and perhaps more advanced social structures, began to spread across the same landscapes the Neanderthals called home. For several thousand years, the two species coexisted, sometimes even interbreeding, leaving a small, indelible mark of Neanderthal DNA in most non-African, modern human populations. This genetic whisper is a powerful reminder of their brief, shared history, but by roughly 39,000 to 41,000 years ago. The archaeological record of Neanderthals grows thin, then ceases altogether. Their fires went out, their tools were no longer crafted, their bones no longer buried. They simply faded into the mists of prehistory. What force, then, caused the disappearance of our closest ancient relatives, leaving the world to a new, ascendant lineage? The question has haunted scientists for decades, sparking intense debate and numerous theories, each a thread in a complex, unresolved tapestry. Was it direct competition with Homo sapiens? Did the incoming modern humans, perhaps with slightly more efficient hunting techniques, a broader diet, or more complex social networks, outcompete Neanderthals for dwindling resources, especially during periods of climatic stress? Or was it a more subtle, demographic pressure, where Homo sapiens, with a slightly higher birth rate or lower mortality, simply outpopulated them over time, slowly absorbing them through interbreeding until their distinct identity dissolved? Climate change is another powerful culprit. The late Pleistocene was a period of dramatic and rapid climate fluctuations, marked by intense, sudden cold snaps and environmental shifts. while Neanderthals were adapted to cold, perhaps the speed and severity of these changes, combined with other pressures, proved too harsh for their specialized adaptations. Did key prey animals migrate or die off, leading to a catastrophic decline in their food sources? Or could a more insidious, invisible killer have swept through their populations? An ancient pathogen, a disease introduced by the arriving Homo sapiens to which Neanderthals had no immunity, wiping them out with silent, devastating efficiency. This theory, while difficult to prove definitively, offers a chilling parallel to later historical epidemics. The precise reason for their decline remains one of humanity's most profound prehistoric mysteries, a haunting question of why one dominant hominin species simply ceased to be. Their ghostly silence lingers in the ancient caves and forgotten tools they left behind, a poignant reminder of deep time and evolutionary shifts. As the night deepens, listen closely to the whispers of the wind, for in its ancient breath you might almost hear the faint, distant echo of a Neanderthal hunter, forever tracking a prey that has long since vanished into the profound silence of a lost era. When the monumental old kingdom of ancient Egypt, a golden age of pyramid builders and centralized power, abruptly fractured into chaos, a profound and haunting vacuum of authority emerged. Imagine a unified realm, steeped in divine order and monumental ambition, suddenly dissolving into fragmented shadows, its pharaohs fading into obscurity, leaving behind not grand monuments, but a chilling silence of broken authority. This was the first intermediate period, a forgotten interlude in Egypt's grand narrative. Our journey takes us back to the very end of the Old Kingdom. Roughly around 2181 BC. For centuries, Egypt had enjoyed unparalleled stability and prosperity under powerful pharaohs whose authority was absolute, divine. The colossal pyramids of Giza and Saqqara stood as eternal testaments to their might, symbols of a perfectly ordered cosmos. The bureaucracy was efficient, the provinces loyal, the Nile's life-giving floods predictable. It was an age of seemingly eternal harmony, but slowly, subtly, the seeds of decline were sown. Later Old Kingdom pharaohs, perhaps seeking to reward loyal officials, granted increasing autonomy and land to provincial governors, known as nomarchs. This decentralization of power, intended to make governance more efficient across a vast kingdom, inadvertently created powerful, independent, local dynasties. The nomarchs began to bury themselves in elaborate tombs within their own nomes, rather than near the royal pyramids, a subtle but significant shift in loyalty from the king to their local domains. Then the true crisis began. Some historians point to a series of devastating, prolonged droughts, leading to widespread crop failures and starvation. The Nile's vital inundation, once a guarantee of life, became erratic, its waters failing to reach the fields. Imagine the social upheaval, the desperate pleas for food, the breakdown of a system designed for abundance. Now failing in scarcity, a central authority weakened, famine spread, and the economic backbone of the kingdom buckled. Chaos erupted. The once unified realm dissolved into a patchwork of independent, often warring nomarchies. The pharaoh in Memphis or Heracleopolis held only nominal control, if any. Local governors, now acting as de facto kings, fought amongst themselves for territory, resources, and influence. The grand vision of a single, unified Egypt, symbolized by the double crown, shattered into countless fragments. For nearly 2 centuries, Roughly from 2181 to 2055 BC, Egypt groaned under this internal strife. The artistic and architectural standards, once meticulously upheld by royal patronage, declined sharply. Monumental constructions ceased. Records became sparse, fragmented, and often contradictory. The very concept of dynastic succession became blurred. As multiple, often ephemeral, pharaohs claimed the throne simultaneously, their reigns brief and often bloody. The once clear lineage of divine kings became a confusing tangle of usurpers and pretenders. Within the opulent, gilded palaces of Tsarist Russia, a chamber of unparalleled beauty once gleamed, a masterpiece of amber panels, intricate gold leaf, and shimmering mirrors. It was hailed as the eighth wonder of the world, the legendary Amber Room. Imagine a space so dazzling, so intricately crafted from the fossilized sunlight of ancient forests, that it seemed to pulse with a warm, almost living light. But during the relentless onslaught of total war, this breathtaking creation was spirited away, only to vanish into the tumultuous shadows of history, becoming a ghost of its former golden glory. Our story begins not in Russia, but in Prussia, in the early 18th century. Frederick I, the first king of Prussia, commissioned this extraordinary chamber, envisioning a room entirely panelled in amber, a substance prized for its rarity and beauty. Craftsmen from across Europe toiled for years, shaping thousands of pieces of amber into intricate mosaics, figures, and patterns, inlaid with gold leaf and adorned with gemstones. It was a lavish testament to Baroque artistry. However, before its completion, a pivotal moment of diplomacy altered its fate. In 1716, Frederick William I, Frederick I's successor, seeking to forge a powerful alliance with Peter the Great of Russia, gifted the partially completed Amber Room to the Tsar. It was a gesture of immense geopolitical significance, a dazzling offering between monarchs. The room was then meticulously transported in 18 large crates to Russia, where it was eventually installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, becoming a jewel of the Romanov dynasty, its brilliance captivating all who beheld it for over 2 centuries. Then came the storm of the 20th century. In 1941, during World War II, Nazi Germany launched a brutal invasion of the Soviet Union. As their forces advanced rapidly toward Leningrad, St. Petersburg, the Soviets frantically attempted to dismantle the Amber Room, but the amber had become brittle with age, and the task was impossible without risking irreparable damage. In a desperate attempt to protect it, they tried to camouflage the room with wallpaper, but the German forces, recognizing its immense value, easily discovered it. They meticulously disassembled the entire room, packing its precious panels into 36 large crates, and transported them by train to Kingsburg Castle. In East Prussia, now Kaliningrad, Russia, a stronghold of the Teutonic Knights and a symbol of German power. Here, the Amber Room was reassembled and displayed for 2 years. A grotesque irony, a stolen masterpiece gleaming in a fortress of war. But as the tide of the war turned and Soviet forces advanced inexorably westward, the fate of Kingsburg Castle and its precious contents became precarious. In August 1944, British bombers unleashed a devastating aerial assault on Kingsburg. Then, in April 1945, the city was subjected to a brutal siege by the Red Army, leading to its capture and ultimate destruction. And amidst this maelstrom of fire and chaos, the Amber Room simply vanished. Was it destroyed in the fierce bombing of Kingsburg, shattered into countless fragments and consumed by the inferno? Was it hidden away in a secret bunker beneath the castle, perhaps even spirited onto a German U-boat in a last-ditch attempt to save it, never to be found? Did it fall into the hands of shadowy figures, Soviet trophy brigades, or perhaps even individual looters spirited away into private collections? Its dazzling panels now dispersed across the world, hidden from public view. Despite decades of relentless searching, countless expeditions into underground bunkers, lakes and forests, and numerous theories, no definitive trace of the original Amber Room has ever surfaced. Its whereabouts remain one of the greatest art mysteries of all time. Its disappearance is a haunting testament to the destructive power of war, a symbol of beauty consumed by the fires of conflict, a lost treasure forever lurking in the shadows of history. The Amber Room exists now as a phantom, its golden glow a spectral memory, forever tantalizing, forever elusive. And as the night deepens, you might almost glimpse its phantom gleam, a lost wonder whispering of its vanished glory from the deep, dark corners of a world scarred by war. Asterisk across the rugged, sun-baked landscape of Sardinia, where ancient granite mountains meet the azure embrace of the Mediterranean. Thousands of enigmatic stone towers rise from the earth, silent sentinels of a lost civilization. These are the nuraghi, massive, beehive-shaped fortresses built from colossal unmortared stones. Imagine a people so skilled in masonry, so deeply connected to their land, that they left behind a landscape dotted with their monumental legacy, only to slowly, mysteriously fade from the annals of clear history, leaving only their enduring stones to whisper of their vanished world. Our journey takes us to the Bronze Age, from around 1800 BC to 250 BC, a period spanning over a millennium. During this time, the Nuragic people flourished on their isolated island. They were not just builders, they were sophisticated metalworkers, crafting intricate bronze figurines of warriors, shamans, and animals, revealing glimpses into their daily lives and spiritual beliefs. They developed complex social structures, engaged in extensive trade networks across the Mediterranean, and created a unique, vibrant culture fiercely independent in its island stronghold. The Nuraghi themselves are the most striking testament to their ingenuity. Over 7,000 of these towers still stand, ranging from simple single towers to complex fortresses with multiple turrets, courtyards, and intricate internal passages. Their purpose remains debated. Were they defensive strongholds, watchtowers, granaries, or even sacred temples? Perhaps all of these. They showcase remarkable engineering, built without mortar, relying on gravity and precision-cut stones to create incredibly stable, enduring structures that have withstood millennia of wind, rain, and seismic activity. Surrounding these monumental towers were often sprawling villages of stone huts, evidence of thriving communities. Yet, despite their enduring structures, surprisingly little is known about the Nuragic people themselves. We have no deciphered, written language, no detailed historical accounts from within their own culture. Their voices are silent, their stories unwritten. While their artifacts speak volumes about their material culture and some aspects of their beliefs, the precise reasons for their gradual disappearance and the ultimate dissolution of their distinct identity remain elusive. They seem to have simply faded into the mists of time, absorbed or supplanted by successive waves of invaders and colonists from the outside world. The Phoenicians, masters of maritime trade, established coastal trading posts from the 9th century BC, gradually introducing new cultural influences. Then came the Carthaginians in the 6th century BC, who violently asserted control over much of the island, bringing their own customs, religions, and administrative systems. Finally, the Romans arrived in 238 BC, conquering the island and fully integrating it into their vast empire. Was it a slow, cultural assimilation, where the Nuragic people gradually adopted the languages, technologies, and social structures of their more powerful colonizers, losing their distinct traditions over generations? Or was it a more violent conquest, a series of bloody subjugations that decimated their populations and dismantled their societal organization, forcing them to abandon their ancient ways and their sacred nuragi? The decline seems to have been protracted, not a sudden, cataclysmic event, but a slow erosion of identity. The nuragi remain a haunting testament to their presence, solid and stoic, yet utterly silent regarding the fate of their creators. These ancient stone fortresses guard secrets that the winds carry but never reveal, leaving us to ponder the silent exodus of a people who once commanded the wild heart of the island. They stand as enduring questions carved in stone, monuments to a powerful civilization that quietly receded from the forefront of history, leaving only their enigmatic towers to echo their forgotten glory. And as the night deepens, you might almost feel the rough ancient stone beneath your fingertips, and hear the distant, ghostly hum of a people who simply dissolved into the relentless tide of time, high in the unforgiving Arctic Circle, amidst the grinding ice and the vast silent fjords of Greenland. A profound and chilling tale of human vulnerability unfolds. Here, where the land and sea meet, in a perpetual struggle of ice and rock, a thriving European civilization once took root, built with tenacity and ambition. Yet, after centuries of struggle and adaptation, these Norse settlers simply vanished, their vibrant communities becoming ghost towns consumed by the profound silence of the Arctic wilderness. Imagine a thriving colony, stubbornly clinging to life at the very edge of the known world, then, as if swallowed by the biting winds, simply ceasing to be. Our story begins around 985 AD, when Eric the Red, exiled from Iceland, stumbled upon this vast, icy land. Enticed by the promise of new pastures, and perhaps, with a cunning touch of marketing, named it Greenland to attract settlers. Over the following centuries, two distinct Norse settlements emerged: the larger eastern settlement on the southwestern coast, and the smaller western settlement further north. These were not mere temporary camps. They were genuine colonies, with thriving farms, stone houses, churches, and even a cathedral. They raised livestock, hunted seals and caribou, and traded valuable walrus ivory and polar bear skins with Europe. For generations, these hardy Norse adapted, building a distinctive culture at the very fringes of human endurance. But life in Greenland was a constant battle against the elements. The growing season was short, the climate harsh, and reliance on unpredictable resources made survival a precarious dance. Slowly, inexorably, the climate began to shift. The medieval, warm period, which had allowed the Norse to establish their farms, gave way to the Little Ice Age, bringing colder temperatures, more severe winters, and the insidious creep of sea ice that choked off shipping lanes and shortened the precious sailing season. By the early 15th century, a profound and unsettling silence fell over the Norse settlements. Ships that later sought them, decades later, found only abandoned farms, silent churches, and empty graves. There were no signs of a struggle, no desperate messages, no evidence of a mass exodus. The buildings stood, weathered and empty, as if their inhabitants had simply stepped out for a moment and never returned. The once vibrant communities had utterly vanished. What dire fate befell these hardy Norse communities, leaving behind only the ghosts of their homes? The answers, like the ice itself, are complex and multi-layered. The primary suspect is the relentless, gradual cooling of the climate. As temperatures dropped, the short growing season became even shorter, rendering their traditional farming methods increasingly unsustainable. The pastures withered, the livestock starved, and the ability to grow vital grains diminished. The very foundation of their agricultural existence began to crumble. This environmental stress was likely compounded by other factors. Did the changing hunting patterns of seals and caribou, vital food sources, lead to widespread starvation? The very sea ice that blocked their trade routes also made hunting more perilous. Furthermore, contact with their homeland in Norway and Iceland became increasingly difficult. Cutting them off from vital supplies, new settlers, and cultural exchange. Another significant factor was the presence of the indigenous Inuit people, who had migrated into Greenland centuries before the Norse, better adapted to the extreme Arctic conditions. While initial interactions might have been minimal, escalating conflicts over dwindling resources, as some archaeological evidence suggests, could have played a role in the Norse demise. The Inuit possessed superior hunting technology for the far north and a profound understanding of the Arctic environment. Or was it a silent, insidious plague, a disease introduced from Europe that swept through the isolated communities, leaving no one to tend the sick or bury the dead? The lack of mass graves makes this less likely, but possible. Finally, some theories suggest a desperate collective decision to abandon Greenland altogether, sailing away en masse in a final, unrecorded exodus back to Iceland or Norway, though no evidence of such a massive migration has ever been found. The exact combination of factors remains a haunting puzzle, a stark example of how even resilient communities can be utterly consumed by environmental shifts and the unforgiving indifference of nature, leaving behind only the ghostly outlines of their once vibrant homes in the permafrost. The Greenland Norse are a poignant reminder that even at the very edge of the habitable world, human endeavor is profoundly fragile, and as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant, phantom creak of a longboat, or the faint, despairing cries of a people lost to the biting winds and the silent, hungry ice from the steamy lowlands of ancient Mesoamerica, where dense jungle mists rise from fertile riverbeds. A civilization emerged that would forever be known as the Mother Culture. Of subsequent great societies like the Maya and Aztec, the Olmec, a people of enigmatic genius, left behind colossal stone heads with features both human and divine, silent testaments to their power. Imagine a culture that mastered agriculture, art, and monumental architecture, only to mysteriously abandon its grand centers, its influence dissolving into the dense embrace of the jungle, leaving behind only its magnificent, uninterpretable stone faces. Our journey begins around 1400 BC in the Gulf Coast lowlands of modern-day Mexico. Here, the Olmec civilization blossomed, developing complex urban centers like San Lorenzo and La Venta. They were innovators, pioneering intricate calendrical systems that would influence all later Mesoamerican cultures, developing an early form of writing and establishing extensive trade networks that stretched across vast distances, connecting them to distant regions for valuable resources like jade and obsidian. Their society was highly stratified, led by powerful rulers or shaman kings, whose authority was likely reinforced by their control over elaborate religious rituals. But it is their colossal stone heads that are the most enduring and captivating. Legacy of the Olmec, carved from massive basalt boulders, some weighing up to 40 tons. These heads stand 10 feet tall, depicting idealized, individualized portraits of rulers, adorned with helmet-like headgear. The logistical feat of quarrying these immense stones from distant mountains and transporting them across rivers and swamps to their ceremonial centers speaks to an astonishing level of organization, engineering skill, and a profound reverence for their leaders. They are a silent, powerful enigma, their eyes gazing out from across millennia, unblinking witnesses to a lost world. Yet, after flourishing for nearly a millennium, particularly between 1200 and 400 BC, a profound and unsettling pattern emerged. The major Olmec centers were gradually, yet definitively, abandoned. San Lorenzo, their earliest and largest city, went into decline around 900 BC, its monuments defaced and buried. La Venta, which rose to prominence after San Lorenzo, suffered a similar fate around 400 BC. The grand ceremonial centers, once bustling with activity, became silent ruins, slowly being reclaimed by the relentless jungle. The unique Olmec culture, so influential and powerful, seemingly dissolved, its people dispersing, its distinct identity fading from the forefront of Mesoamerican history. What silent forces compelled such a powerful, influential society to simply cease to be, to abandon their magnificent cities? The answers remain elusive, shrouded in the mists of time and the dense jungle canopy. One prominent theory points to environmental changes. The Olmec heartland was prone to river course shifts and flooding, which could have disrupted their agricultural systems, leading to resource depletion and widespread famine. Imagine the struggle of a people whose very survival depended on the predictable flow of the rivers, suddenly facing a landscape transformed by nature's unpredictable hand. Another compelling explanation suggests internal strife. The and deliberate burial of some of the colossal heads could indicate a rebellion against the ruling elite, a violent overthrow of authority that shattered the social fabric. Such internal conflicts could have led to civil war, mass migrations, and the ultimate collapse of their centralized power. Or perhaps they were overwhelmed by external threats. As other Mesoamerican cultures began to emerge and grow in power, did they exert pressure on the Olmec, leading to conflict, displacement, or absorption? While no clear evidence of a large-scale invasion exists, a gradual encroachment by neighboring groups could have contributed to their decline. The jungle has reclaimed much of their legacy, leaving behind only these awe-inspiring yet stone faces to stare into an unknown future, guarding the profound secret of their sudden and complete cultural disappearance. The Olmec remain a haunting testament to the impermanence of even the most powerful civilizations, a reminder that the land itself can absorb the grandest human endeavors, leaving only enigmatic whispers in the humid air. And as the night deepens, you might feel the heavy silence of the jungle, and hear the distant, phantom echo of ancient drums, long stilled, from a world that vanished into the green. High in the desolate, snow-laden peaks of the Ural Mountains, where ancient forests give way to windswept, treeless slopes, a chilling enigma unfolded, a tale so disturbing it continues to haunt the cold, silent peaks and the collective imagination. It is the story of 9 experienced hikers who met a gruesome and inexplicable end, leaving behind a scene of profound terror and an enduring, unanswerable question. Imagine a pristine wilderness transformed into a tableau of horror, where the very snow seems to hold its breath, guarding an unspeakable secret. Our journey into this perplexing mystery begins in February 1959. A group of 10 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, embarked on a challenging winter expedition into the northern Urals, aiming for Otorten Mountain, a name that translates from a local language as "don't go there." These were seasoned trekkers, adept at navigating the harsh Russian wilderness, equipped for extreme cold, and confident in their abilities. Their journey was meant to be an arduous, yet triumphant, traverse. One member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill early in the trip and turned back, a decision that would unknowingly save his life and leave him forever haunted by the fate of his companions. The remaining 9 pressed on, venturing deeper into the unforgiving mountains. Their last known photograph, taken on February 1st, shows them setting up camp on the slopes of Kolatsayakal, or Dead Mountain, another ominously named peak. When the group failed to return by their scheduled date, a search party was launched. What they discovered on February 26th chilled them to the bone and defied all logic. The hiker's tent was found partially collapsed, buried under snow, but crucially, it was cut open from the inside. All their warm clothing, boots, and supplies were still inside. It seemed they had fled in a sudden, desperate panic into the brutal sub-zero night. With inadequate attire, the bodies were found scattered down the snowy slope over a mile from the tent, in various states of undress. 2 were found near the remains of a small campfire, partially clothed, having apparently tried to warm themselves. 3 more bodies were found in positions suggesting they were attempting to return to the tent. Months later, as the snow melted, the remaining 4 bodies were discovered in a ravine, buried deeper. These last 4 revealed the most disturbing injuries: a fractured skull in one, several broken ribs in another 2, and one young woman, Ludmila Dubinina, found with her eyes missing and her tongue inexplicably gone. Crucially, there were no external signs of struggle, no other footprints in the fresh snow apart from their own, no indication of an attack by humans or animals. The official Soviet investigation declared the cause of death was a compelling, natural force, and the case was closed. The details largely kept secret, fueling decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. But what natural force could cause such bizarre injuries? A panicked flight from a seemingly undisturbed tent, and the complete disfigurement of one victim. The most widely discussed theories include a localized avalanche, a rare slab avalanche, that could have buried the tent, causing the panic, and then dissipating before rescuers arrived. But this doesn't fully explain the specific internal injuries or the missing tongue. Some have suggested a terrifying, unknown animal attack, a yeti or a rogue bear, but again, the lack of struggle and specific patterns of injury defy simple explanation. More sinister theories point to top-secret military experiments gone wrong, perhaps involving infrasound, radiation traces of which were found on some clothing, or even a test of a new, unknown weapon. Others whisper of a paranormal encounter, a terrifying presence in the desolate wilderness. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the coldest, most profound cold cases in history, a dark stain on the snows of the Ural Mountains. The lack of clear answers, the bizarre circumstances, and the profound terror etched into the final moments of these 9 hikers continue to haunt the silent, unforgiving peaks, inviting endless speculation and a chilling sense of the unknown. And as the night deepens, you might almost feel the biting cold of that mountain, and hear the phantom, desperate cries of those who fled from an unseen horror, lost forever to the profound silence of the dead mountain, deep within the unmapped, emerald heart of the Amazon basin, where the suffocating humidity clings to ancient trees and the rivers coil like slumbering serpents. A tantalizing whisper persists. It is the legend of Patiti, an untouched Inca refuge, a city of gold and ancient wisdom, hidden from the avaricious gaze of the outside world. Imagine a civilization fleeing the brutal tide of conquest, retreating into an impenetrable wilderness, their treasures and secrets swallowed by the vast green labyrinth, transforming into a myth that forever beckons the desperate and the bold. Our story begins in the 16th century, as the Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro, brutally swept through the Inca Empire, dismantling its vast dominion and plundering its unimaginable riches. The Inca, a people of profound spiritual depth and immense wealth, found their world crumbling before the relentless European advance, their gold melted down, their sacred sites desecrated. But legend held that not all was lost. As the last Inca rulers, particularly Manco Inca and his successors, waged a desperate resistance, tales began to circulate among the Spanish and indigenous populations alike of a final bastion, a hidden city far to the east, in the unexplored depths of the Amazonian jungle, where the last Inca rulers and their most sacred treasures had retreated. This was Patiti, the mythical lost city of gold. For centuries, the promise of Patiti became a siren song for adventurers, treasure hunters, and desperate men. Expeditions, both grand and foolhardy, set out into the impenetrable green labyrinth of the Amazonian lowlands of modern-day Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil. They battled disease, from malaria to yellow fever, succumbed to the treacherous terrain of swamps, dense forests, and raging rivers, and faced the constant threat of hostile indigenous tribes who guarded their ancestral lands fiercely. Many explorers returned empty-handed, broken in spirit and body. Many more simply vanished, swallowed by the jungle's relentless embrace, their own fates adding to the layers of mystery surrounding Paititi. Is Patiti merely a mythical projection of European desires for gold, a romanticized fantasy born from the lust for conquest, or does it hold a tangible truth, a physical reality waiting to be discovered? Indigenous oral traditions often speak of lost cities, of a last refuge, giving credence to the legend. Some modern archaeological theories suggest that large, complex societies indeed thrived in the Amazonian lowlands, capable of building large settlements and sophisticated infrastructure, which were later decimated by introduced diseases before Europeans even reached them, leaving behind only overgrown ruins and fragmented memories. The jungle, in its vastness, is capable of swallowing entire armies, let alone a hidden city. Its relentless growth, its capacity to reclaim, to erase, means that even stone structures can be quickly consumed and buried beneath layers of vegetation and soil. The sheer scale of the Amazon, the difficulty of traversing its territories, and the unyielding resistance of nature itself have been the most formidable guardians of Patiti's secrets. Patiti remains an enduring symbol of resistance and elusiveness, a phantom city shimmering in the humid air of the deepest Amazon, forever luring the bold and the desperate to its unrevealed golden heart, a testament to the jungle's power to reclaim even the most determined souls. And as the night draws around you, you might almost feel the oppressive humidity of the jungle, and hear, in the rustle of unseen leaves, the faint, desperate whispers of a lost explorer, forever seeking a city that may only exist in the realm of dreams, following the brutal, horrifying execution of the Romanov imperial family in July 1918. A macabre and unsettling phenomenon emerged from the shadows of revolutionary Russia. It was a parade of spectral figures, each claiming to be one of the miraculously escaped Grand Duchesses or the Tsarevich. A grim testament to a world desperate for a different ending to an unspeakable tragedy. Imagine a global stage haunted by ghosts, by false identities, blurring the line between hope and delusion, all born from a profound, unresolved absence. Our story plunges into the dark heart of the Russian Civil War, a maelstrom of violence that followed the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. On July 17, 1918, in the cellar of the Ipatieff house in Ekaterinburg, Tsar Nicholas II, his Empress Alexandra, their four Grand Duchesses, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, their ailing Tsarevich, Alexia, along with their loyal retinue, were brutally murdered by Bolshevik firing squad and bayonets. Their bodies, mutilated and then dissolved with acid and burned, were secretly buried in a desperate attempt to erase their very existence. But secrets, especially those shrouded in such horror, rarely remain buried. Rumors of survivors quickly spread. The very act of concealing the bodies, meant to prevent the creation of martyrs, inadvertently fueled the myth that perhaps one, or even all, had miraculously escaped the slaughter. The world, reeling from the sudden, violent end of a dynasty, clung to the hope of a surviving Romanov, a lost heir who might one day reclaim their throne. And so they appeared. From the desperate, war-torn corners of Europe, a procession of individuals emerged, each bearing a tale of miraculous escape, of secret identities, of hidden suffering. Most were quickly exposed as charlatans, their stories unraveling under scrutiny, yet some, like Anna Anderson, who emerged in Germany in 1920 claiming to be the youngest Grand Duchess Anastasia, maintained her pretense with astonishing conviction for decades. She became the most famous of these impostors, her claim fueling a global fascination, dividing families and inspiring books, plays, and films. What dark psychological needs did these individuals fulfill, both for themselves and for a world desperate for a different ending to the tragic imperial saga? For the impostors, it offered an escape from their own mundane, often traumatic lives, a chance to inhabit a grand, stolen identity. For the grieving monarchists and those who abhorred the Bolshevik regime, the impostors offered a potent symbol of defiance, a flickering candle of hope that the old world might yet return. Even members of the surviving Romanov family were divided, some convinced by Anna Anderson's uncanny resemblance and detailed knowledge, others staunchly rejecting her. The prolonged mystery surrounding the fate of the Romanov bodies, it would be decades before their remains were finally discovered, identified through DNA, and given a proper burial created fertile ground for such deceptions. The uncertainty allowed the phantom Romanovs to wander the world, their existence a testament to the power of human belief in the face of brutal truth. Each impostor, in their own way, was a ghost, a living embodiment of the vanished family. The Romanov impostors, then, represent a strange, collective, psychological disappearance. It was not a physical vanishing, but a profound willingness to believe in a fantastical survival over a brutal historical truth. Their stories, often tragic in their own right, illustrate how the human mind grapples with unimaginable loss, how it constructs narratives to cope with unspeakable acts, forever blurring the lines between hope, delusion, and the unyielding grip of tragedy. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant, phantom whispers of a court that never was, and the faint echo of a desperate plea, forever haunting the gilded cages of a vanished empire. Asterisk, around 1200 BC, across the sun-drenched shores and bustling trade routes of the eastern Mediterranean, a profound and widespread catastrophe unfolded, a silent, inexplicable apocalypse that shattered civilizations and plunged a vibrant world into a period of chaos and obscurity. Imagine a vast, interconnected network of powerful empires: the Hittites, the Mycenaean Greeks, the new kingdom of Egypt flourishing in an era of unprecedented globalism, suddenly crumbling, their magnificent palaces burning, their trade routes withering, their very literacy vanishing, as if swallowed by a collective, historical amnesia. This was the Bronze Age collapse, a haunting enigma whispered from the dust of forgotten ruins. Our journey takes us to a time before recorded history, when the Mediterranean was a vibrant tapestry of kingdoms. For centuries, the Late Bronze Age, roughly 1600 to 1200 BC, was a period of remarkable prosperity and interconnectedness. Major powers like the Hittite Empire in Anatolia, the Mycenaean kingdoms of Greece, the new kingdom of Egypt, and the flourishing city-states of Ugarit and Troy engaged in extensive diplomacy, trade, and even occasional warfare. Copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, gold from Egypt, and olive oil from Greece crisscrossed the seas, fueling a sophisticated global economy. Royal archives, like those found at Amarna and Hattusa, reveal a world of intricate alliances and diplomatic correspondence, a true First International system. Then, around 1200 BC, the lights began to go out. Abruptly, catastrophically, the Hittite Empire, once a rival to Egypt, vanished from the map. The Mycenaean palaces, the legendary homes of heroes like Agamemnon, were sacked and burned, their complex administration collapsing. The great city of Ugarit on the Syrian coast, a hub of trade and culture, was utterly destroyed and abandoned, never to be rebuilt. Egypt, though it survived, was severely crippled, losing its imperial territories and descending into a period of weakness. It was a systemic collapse, affecting a vast swath of the ancient world, from the Aegean to Mesopotamia, from Anatolia to the Levant. What cataclysmic forces brought about such a simultaneous, devastating end to an entire era of interconnected empires? The sheer scale and synchronization of the destruction defy simple explanation, sparking intense debate among historians and archaeologists. Each theory a fragmented piece of a terrifying puzzle. One prominent suspect is the enigmatic Sea Peoples. These mysterious maritime raiders, whose origins and motivations remain largely unknown, are mentioned in Egyptian records as devastating invaders who swept across the eastern Mediterranean, destroying cities and challenging even the might of Pharaoh Ramesses III. Were they a single, unified force, or a loose confederation of desperate migrants, driven by their own unseen internal pressures? Their precise identity and the true extent of their impact remain shrouded in mystery, but their sudden appearance coincides chillingly with the widespread destruction. Climate change is another powerful culprit. Evidence suggests a series of severe and prolonged droughts gripped the region around this time, leading to widespread crop failures, famine, and mass migrations. Imagine the social unrest, the desperate scramble for dwindling resources, as entire populations faced starvation, turning on their rulers, or migrating in search of sustenance, leading to societal breakdown and internecine warfare. Internal rebellions and system collapse also play a role. The highly centralized and specialized economies of the late Bronze Age empires were fragile. Dependence on long-distance trade routes meant that disruption in one area could trigger a domino effect across the entire system. Peasant revolts against oppressive elites, driven by famine and desperation, could have exacerbated the collapse, shattering internal order. Earthquakes, too, might have played a role. A series of devastating seismic events, weakening cities and infrastructure just as other pressures mounted. The Bronze Age collapse remains one of archaeology's greatest puzzles, a haunting testament to the fragility of even the most dominant civilizations. It is a chilling reminder that entire worlds, seemingly immutable, can be utterly consumed by a complex interplay of environmental shifts, internal strife, and external pressures. There, grand edifices crumbling into the dust of an inexplicable, silent apocalypse. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant, phantom crackle of burning palaces and the silent, desperate cries of a world that simply collapsed under its own mysterious weight. From the turbulent, often mysterious waters of the Bermuda Triangle, a chilling tale of maritime enigma echoes with an unsettling silence. It is the inexplicable vanishing of the USS Cyclops, a colossal collier ship of the United States Navy, a vessel designed for strength and resilience, which simply vanished into the vast, indifferent embrace of the Atlantic, leaving no trace, no whisper, no explanation. Imagine a ship nearly 600 feet long, with over 300 souls aboard, disappearing as if swallowed by the very fabric of the sea, its fate lost to the depths. Our story begins in March 1918. Amidst the chaos of World War I, the USS Cyclops, a Proteus-class collier, was a vital logistical asset for the US Navy, tasked with transporting bulk cargo, primarily manganese, or a crucial component for steel production, across the Atlantic. On March 4th, she departed Barbados, bound for Baltimore, Maryland. On board were 306 passengers and crew, including the ship's controversial and often erratic commander, Lieutenant Commander George W. Worley. The journey was considered routine, despite the presence of German U-boats in the Atlantic. The Cyclops was well armed and heavily built. The weather conditions reported around the time of her disappearance were, for the most part, calm. There were no distress signals received, no fragmented radio calls for help, no reports of enemy submarine activity in her projected path. No wreckage was ever found, no life rafts, no debris, no oil slick across the vast expanse of the ocean that would indicate a catastrophic breakup. It was as if a giant, invisible hand had simply plucked the massive vessel from the surface of the sea. The complete and utter vanishing of such a large ship, with such a significant number of people, without any trace, has fueled a maelstrom of speculation and theory for over a century. What monstrous force could have swallowed the USS Cyclops so completely and silently? The official Navy investigation, after years of inconclusive inquiries, offered no definitive explanation, stating that the disappearance of this ship has been one of the most baffling mysteries in the annals of the Navy. This lack of closure only deepened the enigma. One theory points to structural failure. The Cyclops had a history of maintenance issues and an overloaded cargo of dense manganese or ore, which could have stressed her hull beyond its limits. A sudden, catastrophic breakup in heavy seas, or a rapid capsizing in a squall, might have occurred too quickly for a distress call. However, the lack of debris challenges this, as even a quick sinking typically leaves some flotsam. German U-boat attacks were, of course, considered, given the wartime context, but German naval records show no U-boat activity in the area at the time, nor any claims of sinking the Cyclops. A daring, internal mutiny was also explored, perhaps orchestrated by the eccentric Commander Worley himself, or by disgruntled crew members, though no evidence ever supported this. Then there are the more exotic explanations, inevitably tied to the fabled Bermuda Triangle, an area notorious for unexplained disappearances of ships and planes. Magnetic anomalies, rogue waves of unprecedented size, and even paranormal phenomena have been invoked to explain the Cyclops' vanishing. While these remain firmly in the realm of speculation, the sheer completeness of the disappearance lends them a compelling, unsettling power. The USS Cyclops remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in US Navy history, a phantom ship, sailing eternally in the collective memory, a silent testament to the ocean's terrifying power to consume and conceal, leaving only speculation in its wake. Its empty space on the sea, the profound silence where its hundreds of voices once were, continues to echo. A chilling reminder that even the strongest human endeavors can be utterly, inexplicably swallowed by the vast, indifferent maw of the sea. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant, ghostly thrum of its engines, forever sailing an unseen course into the profound, silent abyss. Nestled within the breathtaking, rose-red canyons of what is now Jordan, the magnificent city of Petra stands as a silent, majestic testament to the ingenuity of the Nabateans, an ancient Arab people. Its awe-inspiring facades, carved directly into the sandstone cliffs, whisper of a thriving metropolis. But beneath its grand artistry lies an even more remarkable feat, a sophisticated hydraulic system that defied the desert itself, transforming a barren landscape into a vibrant oasis. Imagine a city that mastered the flow of life-giving water, only to slowly, subtly decline, its intricate veins drying up, its people gradually dispersing, leaving behind only the haunting grandeur of its unpeopled rock-cut facades. Our journey takes us to the ancient world, from around the 4th century BC to the 1st century AD. The Nabateans, a nomadic Arab tribe, chose this seemingly inhospitable location, hidden deep within a network of narrow gorges, to establish their capital. Petra was strategically located at the crossroads of major trade routes, controlling the flow of incense, spices, and other precious goods from Arabia to the Mediterranean. Its prosperity was immense, but the true genius of the Nabateans lay not just in their trade prowess, but in their mastery of water. In an arid desert environment, water was life itself. They engineered an astonishingly complex system of dams, cisterns, channels, and ceramic pipes, meticulously carved into the sandstone, to capture every drop of rainwater and divert it from flash floods, storing it for the dry seasons. This intricate network allowed them to sustain a large urban population, cultivate gardens, and provide water for their extensive trade caravans. It was a hydraulic marvel, a testament to their deep understanding of their environment. A city literally carved from rock and sustained by water. The Roman Empire eventually absorbed the Nabatean kingdom in 106 AD for a time. Petra continued to flourish under Roman rule, its architectural wonders even augmented with Roman additions. But then, around the 4th century AD, a subtle yet profound decline began. The vibrant city, once a bustling hub, slowly emptied. Its intricate water systems, once so vital, gradually fell into disuse, crumbling and silting up. By the 7th or 8th century, Petra was largely abandoned, its magnificent structures left to the elements. Rediscovered by the Western world only in the early 19th century. What led to the gradual disappearance of this once flourishing capital, a city that had so ingeniously defied the desert? The answers, like the ancient conduits, are complex and intertwined. A slow unraveling rather than a sudden catastrophe. One primary factor points to a series of devastating earthquakes. The region is seismically active, and powerful tremors, particularly one in 363 AD, could have destroyed crucial sections of their delicate water infrastructure, collapsing dams, cracking pipes, and silting up cisterns. Imagine the immense effort required to rebuild and maintain such a system, and the despair that would set in if it were repeatedly damaged beyond easy repair. Another significant factor was the shifting of trade routes. As Roman power waned and new trade routes emerged, particularly sea routes, Petra's strategic importance as an overland hub diminished. This economic decline would have gradually starved the city of its lifeblood, making it less viable to sustain a large population and the immense effort required to maintain its complex water systems. Without the constant flow of wealth, the motivation and resources for such arduous work would have withered. Finally, a gradual climate change, perhaps a slight decrease in rainfall over centuries, could have exacerbated water scarcity beyond even the Nabateans' ingenious solutions. As the wellsprings diminished and the rains became less reliable, the city would have faced a slow, agonizing dehydration, forcing its inhabitants to disperse in search of more hospitable lands. The silent, majestic ruins of Petra whisper of a subtle, protracted disappearance, a city slowly drying up not just of water, but of its very lifeblood, leaving behind only the haunting grandeur of its rock-cut facades staring out into an empty desert. It is a poignant reminder that even the most brilliant human adaptations to nature can be undone by the relentless march of time, seismic shifts, and the subtle yet profound changes in the world around us, leaving a once vibrant city to the whispering winds and the eternal silence of the canyons, beyond the infamous wartime disappearance of the Amber Room. A tale of colossal loss and elusive recovery lies an earlier, more subtle mystery, one wrapped in the gilded whispers of imperial diplomacy and the tantalizing possibility of fragmented beauty. It is the enigma of the Amber Room's original components, the parts that were meant for one grand vision, only to be altered, dispersed, or simply lost to the less documented currents of history. Imagine a masterpiece crafted from golden light, its very essence fragmented before it was ever fully realized, leaving an echo of a glory that might have been. Our story truly begins in the early 18th century, at the opulent court of Frederick I, the first king of Prussia. Frederick was a monarch of grand ambition and extravagant taste, and he envisioned a chamber of unparalleled splendor within his Charlottenburg palace in Berlin, room entirely panelled in amber, a substance revered for its unique warmth, its perceived magical properties, and its immense value. Craftsmen, led by the master amber artist Gottfried Wolfram, toiled for years, shaping thousands of pieces of fossilized tree resin into intricate mosaics, figures and patterns inlaid with gold leaf and adorned with gemstones. It was a painstaking, immensely costly endeavor, truly designed to be a wonder of the world. However, the creation of this masterpiece was plagued by delays, political shifts, and astronomical expenses. The room was not fully completed to Frederick I's original specifications before his death. His successor, Frederick William I, a more pragmatic and militaristic king, had little interest in such lavish artistic projects. He saw the Amber Room less as an artistic triumph and more as a diplomatic tool. This pragmatic view led to a pivotal moment in its history in 1716. Frederick William I, seeking to forge a powerful alliance with Peter the Great of Russia, made an extraordinary gesture. He gifted the partially completed Amber Room to the Tsar. This was not a fully installed chamber, but rather a collection of its magnificent panels and decorative elements, carefully packed into 18 large crates, destined for the Russian court. It was an act of immense geopolitical significance, a dazzling offering of friendship between powerful monarchs. The room was then transported to Russia, where it was eventually installed, completed, and admired for 2 centuries at the Catherine Palace. But here lies the earlier, forgotten mystery. What happened to the amber panels, decorative elements, and conceptual designs that were originally intended for the Prussian palace, commissioned by Frederick I, but were never sent to Russia because they were either unfinished, deemed surplus to the gifted portion, or simply not part of the initial exchange? The historical focus has largely been on the Grand Russian version of the Amber Room and its subsequent disappearance during World War II. Yet, the initial creation process implies a vast amount of amber and craftsmanship that may have exceeded what was ultimately sent to Russia, with these extra components repurposed, perhaps integrated into other, smaller amber creations within Prussian palaces. Were they simply stored away, eventually falling into disrepair, disintegrating into dust, or perhaps lost to later conflicts and neglect? Did they become part of private collections, their origins forgotten over centuries? Given the immense value and uniqueness of amber artistry, it seems unlikely that they would have been simply discarded. Yet, historical records from the Prussian side are less clear about the ultimate fate of all original amber elements that were not part of the gift to Peter the Great. This subtle absence, this phantom echo of amber that never quite made it to its intended home, adds a layer of quiet intrigue to the Amber Room's already legendary status. It whispers of artistic ambitions that were altered by political realities, of a masterpiece whose complete vision was perhaps never fully realized, its very essence fragmented before it was ever fully installed in its first intended location. And as the night deepens, you might almost glimpse the faint, shimmering light of those lost amber pieces, forever suspended in the unrecorded shadows of a grandeur that was begun, but never entirely finished. Asterisk from the ancient sun-baked heartland of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers nurtured the dawn of civilization. A powerful empire emerged under the legendary figure of Sargon the Great. It was Akkad, the world's first true empire, a monumental endeavor that unified warring city-states under a single, formidable rule. Imagine a civilization that pioneered centralized power, imposed its language and laws across vast territories, and then, after less than 2 centuries of dominance, suffered a rapid and dramatic collapse, its cities abandoned, its power fractured, plunging the region into a period of chaos and obscurity. This was the profound, unsettling mystery of the Akkadian Empire's vanishing. Our journey begins around 2334 BC. Sargon, a man of humble origins, who rose to become a formidable conqueror, founded the city of Akkad, whose exact location remains a mystery to this day, and began a relentless campaign of conquest. He forged disparate Sumerian city-states into a vast, unified realm stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, creating an empire unprecedented in its scale and administrative sophistication. Under Sargon and his successors, particularly Naram-Sin, Akkad flourished. Akkadian, a Semitic language, became the lingua franca of the empire, replacing Sumerian in official use. Grand administrative systems were established, monumental arts celebrated their victories, and a powerful, centralized army maintained order. The Akkadian Empire was a beacon of innovation and strength, seemingly invincible. But empires, no matter how mighty, are fragile constructs. After roughly 180 years of dominance, around 2154 BC, the Akkadian Empire suffered a sudden and dramatic collapse. Its grand cities were abandoned, its administrative systems broke down, and the region descended into a period known as the Dark Age of Mesopotamia, marked by fragmented control, warfare, and a profound decline in urban life. The very memory of Akkad, and even the location of its capital city, became largely lost to later generations, only to be rediscovered through painstaking archaeological work. What force shattered such a formidable and innovative civilization so completely and so quickly? The abruptness of its demise and the widespread impact it had on the region have led to numerous theories, each a thread in the shroud of this ancient enigma. One of the most compelling explanations points to a devastating centuries-long mega-drought. Climate data, gathered from ancient lake sediments and ocean core, suggests a period of severe aridity that gripped the region around 2200 BC, precisely coinciding with the Akkadian collapse. Imagine the fertile agricultural lands, the very breadbasket of the empire, slowly turning to dust. Crops would have withered, livestock perished, and widespread famine would have ensued, leading to mass migrations, social unrest, and the eventual breakdown of centralized authority. A system built on the premise of abundance would have buckled under relentless scarcity. This environmental stress was likely compounded by other pressures. The Akkadian Empire faced constant pressure from invading nomadic tribes, particularly the Gutians from the Zagros Mountains. These fierce, less civilized groups, likely driven by their own resource shortages, could have relentlessly raided and eventually overwhelmed the empire's defenses, contributing to its fragmentation and decline. The Gutians are described in some later Sumerian texts as a barbarian horde, responsible for destroying the empire. Finally, internal rebellions and a weakened central authority also played a role. The very act of governing such a vast and diverse empire would have been a constant challenge, requiring immense resources and unwavering control. As environmental and external pressures mounted, internal dissent, perhaps from subjugated Sumerian cities, could have erupted, further fracturing the empire from within. The sudden, inexplicable disappearance of such a powerful political entity remains a profound historical enigma, a chilling reminder that even the mightiest empires can vanish, consumed by a complex interplay of environmental shifts, external threats, and internal fragility, leaving behind only the echoes of their grand ambitions and the haunting silence of their deserted cities. And as the night deepens, you might almost hear the distant phantom whispers of a forgotten tongue, and the muted roar of an empire that simply dissolved into the dust of time. Asterisk across the dense, verdant lowlands of Mesoamerica. where ancient ceiba trees pierce the humid sky and the calls of unseen birds echo through the vast forest. The once thriving heart of the classic Maya civilization fell silent. Its magnificent cities, like Ticalpalenque and Copan, grand centers of art, astronomy, and power, meticulously carved from the jungle's embrace, were gradually abandoned in the 9th century AD. Imagine a highly sophisticated civilization, builders of colossal pyramids and intricate urban centers, suddenly stepping away from their own grandeur, their vibrant pulse fading, their complex society dissolving into the verdant quiet, leaving behind only the haunting, vine-covered ruins of their glorious past. Our journey takes us to the classic period of the Maya, spanning from roughly 250 AD to 900 AD for centuries. The Maya, masters of mathematics, astronomy, and writing, flourished in the southern lowlands of present-day Guatemala, Belize, and parts of Mexico. They were not a unified empire, but a network of powerful, independent city-states, each ruled by its own divine king. These kings commissioned monumental architecture, towering pyramids, elaborate temples, vast palaces, all adorned with intricate carvings, hieroglyphic texts, and vibrant murals. They developed a sophisticated calendar system, precise astronomical observations, and an advanced writing system, leaving behind a rich intellectual legacy. Their cities were bustling hubs of trade, ceremony, and innovation, supporting large populations through ingenious agricultural techniques like terracing and raised fields. But then, in the 9th century AD, something profound and devastating began to occur. One by one, the great cities of the southern lowlands started to empty. Construction ceased. Long count calendar inscriptions, a hallmark of their elite culture, stopped appearing. The intricate network of trade and political alliances withered. The Maya people did not vanish entirely. Their descendants still live throughout Mesoamerica today. But the grand centralized civilization, the magnificent urban centers that defined the classic period, simply ceased to be. The jungle, with its relentless, patient power, slowly began to reclaim what had once been monumental human achievement. What profound calamity led to this widespread decentralized collapse, an entire civilization seemingly vanishing into the jungle's embrace? The question has baffled archaeologists and historians for decades, yielding no single, definitive answer, but rather a complex web of interconnected factors, each a thread in the shroud of this compelling mystery. One of the most compelling theories points to a series of prolonged and severe droughts. Paleoclimate data, derived from lake sediments and cave formations, indicates that the Maya lowlands experienced several intense multi-decade droughts during the 9th and 10th centuries, precisely when the cities were abandoned. Imagine a sophisticated agricultural system, dependent on rainfall, buckling under the relentless absence of water. Crops would have withered, reservoirs dried up, and widespread famine would have ensued, undermining the very foundation of their society. This environmental stress was likely exacerbated by rampant warfare between competing city-states. As resources dwindled, the struggle for control over arable land and water sources intensified. Hieroglyphic texts depict increasing conflicts, the capture of rival kings, and the destruction of enemy cities. This constant, destructive warfare would have destabilized the region, disrupted trade, and made sustained agricultural production impossible, forcing populations to disperse. Finally, unsustainable population growth and environmental degradation also played a critical role. The Maya lowlands, while seemingly vast, have a fragile ecosystem. Centuries of intensive agriculture, including deforestation for fields and construction, could have led to widespread soil erosion and nutrient depletion, making the land less productive. Overpopulation, combined with resource depletion and warfare, would have created a perfect storm of unsustainable pressure, pushing the civilization beyond its breaking point. The absence of clear, singular evidence for their departure, the fact that they simply walked away from their grand cities rather than being utterly destroyed, makes the Maya collapse a unique and unsettling enigma. The jungle has since reclaimed much of their glory, leaving behind only the silent, vine-covered ruins, monumental testaments to a vanished people and a complex, unsettling mystery of a civilization that simply stepped away from its own grandeur. And as the night deepens, you might almost feel the humid breath of the jungle, and hear the distant, phantom echo of ancient rituals, long stilled, from a world that returned to the profound silence of the earth.